Ramaphosa could still fire Police Minister Senzo Mchunu amid the damning allegations against him and reappoint him. Ramaphosa could still fire Police Minister Senzo Mchunu amid the damning allegations against him and reappoint him if he is cleared. The party and its leader, former President Jacob Zuma, have taken Ramaphosa to the apex court of his decision to place Mchunu on special leave, appoint an acting police commissioner, a police minister, and institute a judicial commission of inquiry. This was prompted by an explosive media briefing by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, where he made allegations of a crime syndicate in Gauteng involving law enforcement, the judiciary, and politicians. Khomotso Modise has more.
The MK Party's lawyer, Advocate Anton Katz, has pointed out for the Constitutional Court that the country's supreme law has made clear provisions for an acting president, but none for an acting minister. He says the president only has power to appoint and dismiss a minister, not suspend.
So the president says, look, I need a good police service. I need policing to be done properly. While this minister is under investigation, it's not that I'm punishing him. It's just that I don't want him to be part of my cabinet. What's wrong with that?
Katz says the decision to fire Mchunu doesn't have to be permanent.
Commissioner Madlanga comes up with a clean bill of health for the current minister or the previous minister of police. The president can appoint him the next day.
Ramaphosa's lawyers are expected to rebut this point in their arguments. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News at the Constitutional Court.
Let's turn to this now. The 39-year-old man linked to the murder of 14-year-old Likona Fose says he was confident he would be cleared of the murder charge, adding he did not commit the gruesome crime. Mduduzi Mnisi was arrested last month for the premeditated murder of the teen girl. Fose's body was discovered mutilated in an open field not far from her home in Durban Deep, west of Joburg, a day after she was reported missing. Today, the National Prosecuting Authority withdrew the charges brought against Mnisi, stating that new information revealed in court ruled him out as a suspect. Thanduluhle Ngobo has that story.
Since his first court appearance, the man who was accused of killing 14-year-old Likona Fose had repeatedly told the court that police had arrested the wrong man. Speaking to media outside the Rudaport Magistrates Court after his release, Mnisi says he is happy that the charges held against him have been dropped.
I knew from the onset that I didn't commit this crime which they were framing me with. You see, I did have an alibi where I was on that day when it happened.
Mnisi says he was framed for the murder because he was known to have previous convictions, including attempted murder.
You know people when you are around in the location and they know like you were previous doing wrong things, you see, and then now you changed and then they don't accept that.
He added that he will not be suing the state for wrongful arrest and just wants to live his life peacefully. Thanduluhle Ngobo, Eyewitness News.
On the East Rand, Ekurhuleni suspended Chief Information Officer Moloko Monyapao is demanding a public apology from Mayor Dr. Xhakaza over statements he believes are defamatory. Monyapao has sent a letter of demand to the mayor, warning that if a formal apology is not made, he will pursue a defamation lawsuit. This follows remarks made by Xhakaza in which he questioned why the city's senior auditor Mpoma Fole was murdered shortly after submitting a report identifying those responsible for a 2 billion rand revenue shortfall. Monyapao was suspended in April for alleged negligence, which is believed to be enabling the revenue shortfall to go unnoticed for months on end. Alfara Mushwana has that story.
Slain Ekurhuleni auditor Mpoma Fole was investigating, among other matters, the municipality's 2 billion rand revenue shortfall at the time of his murder. Mayor Dr. Xhakaza recently disclosed that in one of Mafole's reports, the auditor recommended that criminal charges be laid against one of the officials suspended in connection with the shortfall. Chief Information Officer Moloko Monyapao, who is currently suspended over the same matter, says the mayor's remarks suggest that he may have had a role in Mafole's killing. Monyapao is now demanding a public apology from the mayor, insisting there is no substantial evidence to support such an implication. He says the statements have caused irreparable damage to his professional reputation and future career prospects. The mayor's office is yet to respond to EWN's request for comment. Alfa Ramshwana,
Pilots represented by Union Solidarity are calling for a formally revised written schedule from low-cost carrier FlySafair. The airline and union returned to the CCMA today to continue talks around working conditions, salaries and flight rosters. This as the pilots' strike enters its second week, disrupting flight operations nationwide. Jabuli Lembata has more.
Solidarity says it was not informed of any revised pilot schedule, nor notified that rest weekends have been factored in. The union made the claims after pilots this week penned an open letter to FlySafair, stressing that they only want stability and never intended for the strike to drag on. Pilots raised concerns about fatigue and safety, saying they're responsible for hundreds of human lives and cannot operate effectively if compromised. The letter also dismisses FlySafair's public statements on salaries and working hours as misrepresentations. The company, in turn, says it won't be drawn into a public back and forth and is focused on finding a solution through a formal mediation. Jabuli Lembata, Eyewitness News.
And US President Donald Trump says he probably won't attend the G20 summit in South Africa. He rehashed debunked claims of white citizens being persecuted and killed in the country. Trump took aim at South Africa early in his second term, fixating on claims elevated by his then ally Elon Musk, who was born in the country, of persecution of white citizens. Asked aboard Air Force One if he planned to attend the Leaders' Summit in November, Trump had this to say.
I don't think so, no. I think maybe I'll send somebody else because I've had a lot of problems with South Africa, and they have some very bad policies. Very, very bad policies, like policies where people are being killed. A lot of people are being killed. So I think I probably won't.
Gold is trading at $3,325.91 an ounce. The rand is at 17.87 to the dollar, 23.88 to the pound, 20.59 to the euro. Brent oil is at $71.91 a barrel.
On the N12 West, there's a crash before the Reading interchange. 2 lanes are obstructed, so you can expect delays. Also on the R21 South, there's roadworks and a crash after Benoni. And on the N1 South, before Winnie Mandela Drive, the right lane is closed, so you can expect delays. And in Tshwane, on the N1 South, there's a stationary vehicle with 1 lane closed after Garsfontein Road.
In your sport, Jermaine Seposengwe says she retired from Banyana because she didn't want to lose her love for football. Orlando Pirates confirm appointment of new captain ahead of the 2025-26 season. And Ben Stokes ruled out of England's decisive 5th test against India.
A fine day in Gauteng today. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 18 and 20 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: lawyers for the Umkhonto weSizwe Party have argued that President Cyril Ramaphosa could fire Police Minister Senzo Mchunu amid the damning allegations against him and reappoint him if he is cleared.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
A very good afternoon, everyone. It's 9 minutes past 3 on Wednesday, the 30th of July. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you're listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. And my thanks to Thabo Shole-Mashal, standing in while I was taking 2 days off to spend with family. The MK party is in the Constitutional Court today, challenging the steps taken by President Cyril Ramaphosa in response to allegations made by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. We'll get an update on arguments being put before the court. That's in a moment with Khumotso Modise. After 5, we'll look more deeply at what the issues at stake really are. Some other things on the go. Justice delayed is justice denied. I'm sure you've heard that saying before. It is, I have to say, a little bit well worn. But it has some relevance with the release of the latest statistics on delays in the delivery of court judgments. What does this mean for the people involved in that particular court matter? And what does this say about our judiciary? Begazeli Benjamin joins us from Judges Matter. matters. That's after 4. But have you been involved in a matter that has been subject to that kind of delay? I'd like to know how it's affected you, if indeed it has. Give me a call on that on 072 702 1702. The Lusikisiki murder trial is continuing down in the Eastern Cape, and Nhlanhla Mabaso from EWN is there. He'll join us in a moment. And we'll meet a young playwright from St. Benedict's School who has written an award-winning play, all while being a teenager. That's at 5:20. We've got all that and a whole lot more on 702 Drive, including breaking news, news from the roads in our regular traffic updates, and the latest from the markets. The All Share is up today, but not by much, just 90 points. Small gains across all sectors except industrials. Valterra is having a bright day after a few rather bleak ones. The Platinum Company up by 4.2%. Boxer is up by 3%, Karoo by 2.93%, and Spar and Mr. Price are up by 2.7%. Rand's trading at 17 Rand 91 against the dollar. A euro will cost you 20 Rand 55. The Rand currently trading at 23 Rand 86 against the pound. Brent crude is down by 10 cents, but still trading higher than we would like. Currently $71.64 a barrel. Stephen Critters joins us with all the details at 4:25. We'll get sport from Tolakele Mganga. That's at 4:20. Mongezi Koko is back with the latest news headlines, and we've got Charlene Leroux keeping an eye on the roads. This is 702 Drive. We're live in the place where you live, and if it's happening in 702 land, you will hear it here first. But if there's stuff we're missing, stuff we haven't got the full picture on, stuff where we might be getting the wrong picture altogether, drop us a note or call us on 072 702 1702. If you'd like to chat, give us a ring on 011 883 0702. And that's the number where you can ring us if you like. It's coming up for 3:13.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
So we've got lots to talk about, lots to inquire about, lots to think about. When it comes to thoughts, of course, some of the most interesting ones are the most random. I'll tell you in a moment why I arrived at this random thought. But first, a question. Are you one of those people who, when you cook, you just want to get it done? The microwave is put to work, the air fryer comes into play. Or are you sometimes, even if it's not all the time, a person who does this kind of cooking?
I can't help that I'm a slow cooker. I can't help that I'm a slow
I'm not certain that the room in the house that John Legend had in mind there was the kitchen. But anyway, you get the point. Slow cooking. Now, why am I interested in this today? Well, I'll tell you why. I was just going online and looking at various things on the Daily Maverick site. I see their cooking guy, Tony Jackman, has a recipe for 7-hour lamb shank and date tagine. Is that the right way to say it? Tagine? I hope so. Anyway, and I'm just wondering, is there a dish that you like to make that really literally involves hours? Now, I realize that some of that 7 hours is not spent stirring. Presumably, Tony or whoever else was making this heads off and does other things, stopping by to check the pot and so on. But generally, if it takes longer to cook, in my experience, it takes quite a lot longer to prepare. So is there a special dish that you make where you really put in a whole afternoon, maybe even a whole day? Maybe you start the day before. I'm told curries are always better, for example, the next day when the flavors have combined and so on. But if you ever do slow cooking, what is it that you cook and who do you cook it for? And apart from the food as a benefit, what else do you get from it? Because I get that maybe making a 7-hour dish could be very relaxing. It could also be 7 hours that you might not get back again. So you and slow cooking, if indeed it's a thing, I bet you've got a story to tell. And if you do, I would like to hear it, please, on 072 702 1702. Kabazela, slow cooking. Any dishes that you make, and who do you make them for, and how come we've never had a scuffed tin?
Yeah, good afternoon, John, and to our 702 family. So there's two dishes that I'll make with that take a long time to prepare. One is a lamb shank Durban curry on the
Okay.
potjie. So that you cook very slow, and that can be for hours. The longer and the sort of the lower the heat, the better that it tastes, because then that lamb just completely pulls apart. And that I'll make if I have like a lot of people over to the house, because it's, you got to do all the prep work. But once the prep work is done, you basically just leave it and make sure that none of the gravy or the sauce, the gravy evaporates. And then the second one, which I'll make for me and the missus from time to time, is a beef short rib. And you just, put that in some beef stock, bit of red wine, some carrots, celery, onions, and then you just let that cook slowly, slowly, slowly. And it also just becomes so tender and fall off the bone. Now my mouth is watering.
Yeah.
I haven't made it for a while, so I need to do it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my colleagues to see if anyone else got any of the curry. No, I'm getting shakes of the head. Okay, well, at least
No, there was none left, disappointingly.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Generally, one puts a little bit aside for your chums at work.
It's
Okay,
good.
fair enough. Okay, but tell us, that kind of slow cooking, I suppose I'm asking you a culinary question. I'm asking you a relationship question, because it may be about special occasions with friends or family. But I guess I'm also asking a question about you and cooking. Is there something about cooking that slows you down, that maybe gets you through some of the choppier parts of life? Because there are plenty of those, and often they're about being in a rush. And so, yeah, kind of a question with layers there, much the way I guess you would do the lamb shank tagine.
So I have a mate who they got quite a busy life, and they've got kids. So what they'll do is they will prepare their slow cooker. You got one of those slow cookers.
Yes.
They'll prep it all in the morning, put it on. Whilst they go to work, it's cooking away. And when they come back, their dinner is already prepared. So that's slow, long cooking, but it's also cooking for convenience.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear from you on that. Please on 011 883 0702. It's 18 minutes past 3.
John Perlman
On 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's get the very latest traffic news. Middle of the week, kind of the middle of the afternoon, but rush hour is drawing near. Charlene Leroux has the latest. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. Well, if you're traveling on the N12 West, there's a crash just before Reading Interchange. 2 lanes are obstructed, so you can expect delays there. And if you're on the R21 South, there's roadworks and a crash just after Benoni, slowing down traffic. And if you're traveling on the N1 South, there's a crash before Winnie Mandela Drive. The right lane's closed. And then on the N12 West, there's a stationary truck, and that's in the left lane just after Voortrekker Road. A number of traffic lights faulty this afternoon in Edenvale at Modderfontein and Van Riebeeck Road, in Midrand at Old Pretoria and Olifantsfontein Road, and in Alexandra at Far East Bank and Marlborough Drive and the N3 North and London Road. And in Tshwane on the N1 South, there is a stationary vehicle after Garsfontein Road. 1 lane is closed and traffic lights out at the R55 and Thatchfield Road. More Eyewitness News traffic at 3:30.
This past Sunday, Joburg walked the talk together. Thousands stepped up, stepped out, and stepped forward. And none of it would have been possible without the incredible partners who walked this journey with us.
As a Kwele, we really had a good vibe. We had a lot of people come through, which is nice with an event like this. We have a lot of exposure. They're here for a reason. They're not just here for the exercise. There's a ground behind them being here, and we standing together with them in that. It's nice getting your name out there, but community upliftment, that's something that we stand for ourselves. Being part of Walk the Talk, encouraging people by being present. So definitely, yes. As a Kwele, we'll be back.
A heartfelt thank you to every sponsor who made this year's 702 Walk the Talk possible. You powered the spirit of a city walking as one. The 702 Walk the Talk was hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane.
What if the most powerful change in leadership started with your voice At the Legacy Leadership Summit, you won't just be listening, you'll be participating. Join experts like Dr. Tuli Tabudi and Professor Bonang Mohale in meaningful discussions about shaping the future of leadership. Enjoy a fully catered experience, exclusive leadership resources and more. It's all happening on the 14th of November at Henley Business School in Johannesburg. Seats are limited. Find more information at Legacy Leadership Summit on Facebook and Instagram.
Your mum was a tough woman, the no-nonsense type.
Don't you feel like you cry?
She made you cut your hair, eat your veggies, clean your room.
Don't you feel like crying?
She nagged you, grounded you, and brought you down to earth.
Don't you feel like you could crying?
But she was also the one who made your house a home.
Don't you feel like crying?
Now imagine buying her a house of her own.
Oh, yes.
Invest early. You'll be so happy you did. Coronation. Trust is earned. Coronation is a registered FSP.
It's Winter Carnival at Food Lovers Market. Get 6 2-litre bottles of Pepsi Zero, Light or 7-Up sugar-free for $59.99. 2 2-litre bottles of Food Lovers canola oil for 110 Rand. 3 400-gram packs of assorted Food Lovers cheese for 150 Rand. And 2 packs of Food Lovers 2-ply toilet paper 18s for 200 Rand. Valid until 3 August. Only at Food Lovers Market. Winter Carnival now on. You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Right, let's get ourselves to the Constitutional Court. The matter has been going for a while, seems to be blanket coverage on a couple of TV stations, and we've, of course, got our own EWN colleague there watching what's going on. Khomotso Modise joins us now from Constitution Hill, from the Constitutional Court specifically. Khomotso, very good afternoon to you. Arguments so far, from what I can gather, from the Mkhonto Sizwe party, they're the ones who brought the matter to the court. What exactly, if you could summarize it for people who haven't followed it all that closely, what are they asking the court to rule on? What would they like to see change? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Sorry, there's just a bit of sound there as you were posing your question. It seems there may have been a...
No problem.
Yes.
No problem. Let me give it to you again. What kind of redress, let me put it that way, is the MK party actually looking for? What do they say has been done wrong, and how do they want it fixed?
Well, John, the MK party has come to argue really that it's unconstitutional what the president has done in the appointment of Professor Kachalia as acting police minister, as Senzo Mchunu is placed on suspension. And they say this based on the fact that there is no explicit mention of a leave of absence or suspension of a minister. We just heard the lawyers for the MK party, led by Anton Katz, who has said that it's really a black and white issue here. He says Section 5 of the Constitution is clear around what happens when there is the appointment of or the need for an acting president. And he says there's a reason why our law, the Supreme Law, is silent on the appointment of an acting minister. He says it's because it doesn't ordinarily happen in our country. He says it's either you are appointing a minister or you're dismissing a minister. He then goes further, John, and he makes the suggestion, a form of remedy, saying what the president could do is that he could dismiss Mkhunu while he's being investigated, and then reappoint him once he's cleared of the allegations against him. Also, the issue that they have with the current situation is that they're saying the country will now have 2 ministers, and they say the only logical reason that they can think of why the president is allowing this is because he wants Mkhunu to keep his perks and his salary as a minister. Now, we're also hearing on the issue around the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, and they take issue with this Judicial Commission of Inquiry, particularly because the allegations that have been made by Mkhwanazi include the judiciary, John. You may remember that Mkhwanazi claims that within this crime ring that's being run in Gauteng, members of the judiciary, and we presume it may be magistrates, are involved in all of this, and they too should be investigated. We then heard the lawyer for former President Jacob Zuma, Advocate Dalimpof, was saying the judiciary is now conflicted here in that this commission of inquiry is being called the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, but the very judiciary is also being investigated by the members of the judiciary. And so they've taken issue with that as well. Now, it's been a long argument throughout the morning, John, and in fact, only the lawyers of the president are only making their submissions now in the Constitutional Court.
I mean, the bit about the judiciary I don't understand, because that would suggest that if the matter were to go to court, it couldn't be heard by a judge. Let's say, for example, 3 magistrates are identified as being part of crime rings. Where would they go for trial? It does sound odd to me.
Yes, that is a question that was posed by Justice Majid, who did point out that, I mean, if the judiciary is so conflicted, why are you here then to hear our judgment on this particular issue? But I suppose what the lawyers for the MK and former President Zuma are saying is that there are other mechanisms that we have as a country to investigate such outside of a Judicial Commission of Inquiry. They make reference to the JSC, right? The Judicial Service help me there, John. The JSC that investigates
Commission, yes.
Commission, yes, the JSC, and they say that those systems, including the Magistrates Commission as well, are able to investigate members of the judiciary and are able to make a finding. Okay. Now, a question that's posed on that as well is that within the Judicial Service Commission, John, are judges as well. Those are members of the judiciary. And then we heard the lawyers for the MK hitting back saying, well, the judges would then have to be excused from that sitting, and the JSC, which is basically the politicians and some members of the legal fraternity, would then have to make findings on the allegations that have been made.
Yeah, of course, if they did something really bad, they'd still need to end up in a court where, to the best of my expectation, they would be face-to-face with at least one judge. Thank you, Khomotso Modise. It's an intriguing matter. The arguments are complex and extremely interesting, and we'll cover them as best we can right here on this show. Regular updates, of course, in our news bulletins as well. 3:28.
Drive Home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Right, let's stay in the courts, but a very, very different kind of court case. You remember the terrible Lusiki massacre. It's slowly making its way through the courts, but at the moment, 18 people, you will recall, were brutally gunned down last September. 2 neighboring homesteads in Ngobozana village near the rural town of Lusiki. But the matter was back in court today, but some unexpected turns of events, I believe, in Nhlanhla Mabaso, another of our EWN colleagues, keeping an eye on that one. In Nhlanhla, what happened today and where do we stand as the day draws to a close? Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, John. Well, what was supposed to be a day where a witness would take to the stand to talk about what they've witnessed in this case, and I believe it's a police official. EWN has managed to confirm that, but that did not happen because you'd recall yesterday there was a document that was given to the defense in court, and then the defense raised concerns about having to go through the document first, which they then did yesterday. But when proceedings resumed today, it seems there were still some outstanding issues they needed clarity on, and that the state and the defense had to meet. The matter was adjourned for over an hour for that purpose to happen. But then the matter just returned now in court at exactly at 3 o'clock. But instead, it was then postponed to tomorrow. Judge Richard Brook gave that order to say that the matter will return tomorrow morning, where then the witness would take the stand because all what was the outstanding issues have now been ironed out, John.
So in Nhlanhla, obviously a huge number of people directly affected by these killings, 18 victims. If you look at how many lives every individual touches, I would have thought there's probably 1,000 people in the area who are touched in some way or another. Who's been in court and what's been the atmosphere? Okay, we just lost Nhlanhla Mabaso. We may get him back. Otherwise, we'll pick up on this story tomorrow. because the matter, as he was saying, going back into court first thing tomorrow, first order of business, I suppose, would be to get on with hearing evidence, as we always hope they would do, probably less quickly than they invariably do. I see we've got Nhlanhla back. Let's see if we can just put that last question to him. Nhlanhla, we lost you for a moment. The atmosphere in court, were there a lot of people there? If so, who was there and what were they saying? Good afternoon.
Well, yeah, indeed, the families of the slain victims who basically say they wanted, to get closure, or even if they won't get closure, some of them said, but mostly to have an image or any idea or reason why their family members were shot and killed. But what we do know is that when the state submitted post-mortem results, is that most of the victims were shot using high-caliber firearms. Some sustained gunshot wounds to the head, some in the chest. You'd recall, John, that shortly after the incident happened, police found high-caliber weapons and ammunition that were used in this hit in Flagstaff, just a few kilometers away from this particular community. So now we will be hearing, as the week goes on, because this trial sits this week until September. So it's set down, to allow these particular witnesses to come forward with what they have. But also, what some have flagged an issue about is that accused number one, Mzuki Sindamaze, the alleged mastermind, who was arrested while already serving a life sentence for a murder charge at the high security prison in Kokstad, Epongwen, is representing himself legally. So some fear that him not being a legal mind could dent this particular case, because there may be some aspects of the case that he may claim to not understand at a later stage. Those are some of the concerns from the family members. But indeed, John, on Monday, there were delays in the start of the trial. Yesterday again, and today, something which the families really seem not to be happy about.
Nhlanhla Mabaso down in Lusikisiki, bringing us to 28 minutes to 4, time to get an update on all the other stories. Mongoyezi Koko ready with the latest news. Good afternoon to you again.
That's right, and Dr. John, good afternoon. Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis says the city has invested 9.5 billion rand in infrastructure in the 2024-2025 financial year. That's an all-time high for any South African metro. Hill-Lewis says the money spent represents 92% of its full infrastructure budget. The mayor addressed City Council today, saying the only way for Cape Town to avoid some of the crises in other South African cities is to invest in infrastructure at a higher level.
It's one thing to announce new record infrastructure budgets every year in our quest to invest in a better city, but those records mean little if the budgets just stay as numbers on a page. They actually have to be spent.
Hill-Lewis told council spending the allocated budget is not an easy task.
And I'm very pleased to let you know that our city spent 92.3% of our capital budget. That is 9.5 billion rand.
Staying in the Western Cape, the National Council of Provinces has voted overwhelmingly in favour of the appropriation bill, officially finalising the 2025 budget process. But the MK Party and EFF continued their rejection of the bill and the budget in the NCOP in a follow-up to last week's debate and adoption in the National Assembly. As is the case with all money bills that accompany the budget, the NCOP must also adopt the appropriation bill to allow for the full transfer of funds to various departments and entities. Babalo Ndenze reports.
The NCOP voted on each individual department budget in the same way the National Assembly did in its lengthy sitting last week. After debating the individual budgets, the bill was put to the vote with 51 delegates voting in favour and just 9 voting against it, with no abstentions. The MK Party's Mabato Mokoena says they reject the bill, calling it a misappropriation of funds.
It's a lifeline for your corrupt politicians, failing ministers, and bloated departments that can never deliver a simple toilet without a scandal. You call it appropriation bill, we call it a misappropriation bonanza.
The DA's Dennis Ryder says the bill is not perfect, but his party supports the budget.
Is it a perfect document? No. No budget ever can be, and this is the reality faced by every household in South Africa.
The bill will now be sent to the President for assent before it becomes an act of Parliament and departments can spend their funds. Babalo Ndanse, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says he's pleased no donor funding was wasted in the illegal procurement of service providers to supply the infrastructure to provide oxygen to 55 hospitals. Motsoaledi says yesterday's release of findings of the forensic report ordered by the Public Works Minister Dean McPherson clears his department of any wrongdoing in more than 800 million rand tenders. The investigation found the CEO of the Independent Development Trust, Tebogo Malaka, failed to exercise the necessary oversight over ballooning costs. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says the finalisation of this investigation removes the dark cloud that's been hanging over the health department. Motsoaledi says those who've been implicated in wrongdoing not only committed financial corruption but deprived patients of urgent life support in the form of oxygen. Motsoaledi's spokesperson, Foster Mohale.
Minister Motsoaledi is pleased that the Department of Health has lost nothing and all the money that has been donated by the Global Fund is safe.
The tender has since been removed from the IDT and is now under the management of the Development Bank. Motsoaledi says with the forensic investigation having been finalised, the remaining work will now be expedited to conclude the project. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
And UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the country will formally recognise the state of Palestine in September unless Israel takes various steps, including agreeing to a ceasefire in Gaza. The potentially landmark move, part of Starmer's plan for a lasting peace, came after the British leader recalled his cabinet from recess for urgent talks on the worsening situation in the besieged territory. Starmer's move, paired with Paris also saying it will recognise a Palestinian state in September, would make the two European allies the first G7 nations to do so. Starmer and other European leaders have long been criticized for defending Israeli attacks that have killed more than 60,000 people in Gaza since October 2023. They justified the assault based on a Hamas attack that killed more than 1,200 people in Israel, when the armed group also took more than 200 hostages.
I've always said that we will recognize a Palestinian state as a contribution to a proper peace process at the moment of maximum impact for the two-state solution. With that solution now under threat, this is the moment to act.
Clear skies in Gauteng today. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 18 and 20 degrees.
On the R21 South, there's roadworks and a crash after Benoni. If you're on the N12 West, there's a stationary truck in the left lane after Voortrekker Road. And on the N12 East, a stationary vehicle before Xavier Street.
The top story in EWN, Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis says the city has invested 9.5 billion rand in infrastructure in the 2024-2025 financial year, an all-time record for South African Metro.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
Nobody forced Malcolm X to reveal himself. And maybe they wanted an exclusive so bad. But what they had forgotten is that Godfrey Livia had said on this show that the person who gave him that information has actually been a police informant before. So you're actually putting your life at risk. Can you imagine if this guy has people around him who've been investigated by the Hawks, for instance, and they've been wondering, how did the Hawks know about this? And now they're sitting there thinking, could it have been this guy? But nobody forced this man to reveal himself like that. And he should have been more cautious. But he went and said, in an exclusive, I'm going to reveal myself as a person who called Libya.
Clements Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
To every 702 lander who laced up, showed up and walked the talk with us this past Sunday, thank you. The 702 family loved every moment walking, talking and connecting with you on the route. You made the 2025 702 Walk the Talk one for the books, and we can't wait to do it all again with you next year. Here's to you, 702 landers, and here's to the 2025 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane.
So, how did it go?
Oh, just perfect. The drive, so comfortable. The panoramic sunroof, my highlight.
But what about the date?
He was nice, but the Jolien Pro, next level.
Sometimes the drive is the best part. The Haval Jolien Pro from 4,299 per month. Visit gwm.coza for T's and C's and book a test drive. Go with more. Go with GWM.
Be in the right place at the right time with Betway's jackpot slots. Stand to win your share of millions of rands in cash every week. Bet on selected slots every Thursday and Friday night between 7 and 10 p.m. and you could be our next big winner. The more you play, the more chances to win. Get way more only at Betway. Terms and conditions apply. Betway is licensed by the Mpumalanga Economic Regulator. No persons under the age of 18 are permitted to gamble. NRGP counseling line 0800 006 008. All events are fixed odds betting games.
At Bright, we don't just provide business insurance. We insure your businesses.
Future success.
Because your business is so much more than desks and computers and equipment, which is why we use our specialist expertise to tailor solutions for each client differently to ensure what's really important. So insure your businesses.
Financial security,
With Bright today, contact your broker or go to brightinsure.co.za to find out more. Bright, approach risk with purpose. Bright is a licensed insurer and authorized FSP.
EWN Sport.
Right, let's get the very latest sports news now with Tolakele Mkanga. Very good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, John. And Jermaine Siposingwe has opened up about her decision to retire from international football, revealing that she was starting to lose her love of the game. She retired from Banyana after their fourth place finish at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. And in a wide-ranging interview on Marawa Sports Worldwide on 947, Siposingwe says she felt like a shell of herself when donning national team colours.
At the end of the day, I have to go there. I have to basically force myself to be there and struggle within the national team, which is unfair to the people that work hard, unfair to my teammates. Obviously, for me, I want to be better. I want to try. I've been trying for a very long time. I think over 2 years, I've known that I just don't feel the same way that I feel outside of the national team when it comes to football. And so I just thought, no, it's time.
Lucas Ribeiro Costa was the big winner at the 2024-25 PSL Awards, claiming 4 accolades, including Footballer of the Season and the Betway Premiership Players Player. Orlando Pirates' Rile Mofokeng scooped both the Young Player and the MTN 8 Last Man Standing, while other notable winners were Miguel Cardoso, Sipho Chain, Makahleni Makahula, who were named Coach, Goalkeeper and Midfielder of the Season, respectively. At the same time, the Buccaneers have confirmed Nkosinathi Sibisi as the club's new captain following the departure of Innocent Mayela. He'll be assisted by Thapelo Qoki and 19-year-old Mbegezeli Mbogazi. In cricket, India are expected to be without Jasprit Bumrah for the 5th test against England as he's struggling with a back injury, while for the hosts, their captain Ben Stokes has been ruled out of the decider with a shoulder problem. Ollie Pope will lead the side for that game that gets underway tomorrow, while Jacob Bethel will bat at number 6.
No, we've still able to field an 11. That's going to give us a very good chance of, winning this game and winning the series. That's the benefit of having a very strong squad and pretty bloody good cricketers to be able to choose from when we find ourselves in a situation like this. So let's put all the concentration onto the 11 that we've got out there this week, and we're very confident that we've got the ability to be able to win this game and hopefully win the series.
And Venus Williams will compete alongside Riley Olpeka in the mixed doubles at the US Open. They were among 14 teams named for the revamped August 19 to 20 event. Williams is also set to play as a wildcard in next month's Cincinnati Open and could ask for a US Open singles wildcard, with recipients set to be announced in 2 weeks. Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Okay, let's get an update from the roads then, as the roads in fact get busier. Charlene Leroux keeping an eye on things for you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, much happening on the roads. If you're on the R21, there's still the roadworks and that crash after Benoni causing delays. On the N12 West, there's that stationary truck. It's in the left lane just after Voortrekker Road, and traffic is slowing down passing that scene. And on the N12 East, there's also a stationary vehicle just before Xavier Street with one lane closed. And then there's roadworks on the M1 North at Greyston Drive, and that is backing up traffic all the way through to 11th Avenue. Number of traffic lights out this afternoon in North Riding at Sierra Swart and Malibongwe Drive and the N1 and Malibongwe Drive, and in Rand Park Ridge at the N1 and Beyers Nodia Drive. If you're in Tshwane on the N1 South, there's a stationary vehicle. It's after Garsfontein Road and the center lane is closed, so please be on the lookout for that. Traffic lights out in Centurion at Roy Hayes-Kraal and Eitzig Road and at the R55 and Thatchfield Road. More Eyewitness News traffic at 4 p.m.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive. So we were asking you about that kind of cooking that you do when you are prepared to cook something really, really slowly. 6 hours, 7 hours, maybe even a little bit longer. And the question I was asking is, what is it that you cook and what is it that you maybe get out of it apart from food? Is it nice to use that as a way of really, really slowing down? Captain Hindsight, that's the name I've been given, says, I often smoke meat like brisket, beef ribs using my weeb, and that takes me 12 hours. It's very common in the USA. They call it a smoking barbecue. Tolakele, are you, when you cook, pretty much get this done, get dinner done? Or are there special dishes, maybe when you're with family, not necessarily in your own home or with friends, where you say, okay, we're going to take some time over this. We're going to chat while it gets ready. We maybe have a glass of wine or something, or a cocktail while it's all going on. Tell us.
John, if I can, I will outsource an inconvenience. And for
Okay.
me, a lot of the time, cooking is an inconvenience.
All the time, as much as you don't like it at all?
It's just too much chopping, remembering to mix this with that.
There is some chopping.
It's just too much. So the most I'm willing to do is buy tripe from Woolies, then put it on the stove for 30 minutes, because that's how much they tell you to. I'm too lazy for that, John. The more I grew up, the more I realized that in my youth, I had a lot more energy for cooking. But as I get older, it's not for me.
So in your youth, what was the longest you let someone cook? We're getting some endorsements of oxtail is a great thing to cook slowly, which I can definitely support. Done that a few times. That's from Robin. Thank you, Robin. Adding to the general feeling of rumbling stomachs here, I must say.
Samp, tripe, and then have a little mash on the side. That was my speciality meal.
Okay.
Whenever my parents were like, okay, this is your Sunday to cook. And I didn't mind waking up early in the morning, taking my time over that food. That's the only time where I actually stepped up and showed my parents that, yes, in fact, I can contribute to society.
Okay, so slow cooking. Give us a call on that, please, on 011 883 0702 and 011 and 072 702 1702. You can either send us a text message or you can do it as a WhatsApp voice note if you like. Now, because I wasn't in on Monday and I took a break, I've got some grandchildren visiting from the United States, which has been huge fun spending time with them, and thanks again to Tabo for making it possible for me to take that time off. But I didn't get to just express my appreciation for what a wonderful, wonderful day I thought Walk the Talk was on Sunday. The atmosphere was brilliant. I got to meet a few of you, chat, take some pictures, and just generally feel that the 702 family was there and present in a way that obviously we have a sense of you while we're broadcasting, but actually meeting you in person was great. But thank you. 15,000 of us doing the walks of various lengths, all ending up at the union buildings. And as we were saying a little bit earlier, we massively look forward to doing all of that again with you next year. But just from a personal point of view, thank you. Many of you made my day on a personal level when we actually met, and all of you made my day because you were there. So, until next year. It's 11 minutes now to 4.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Right, let's focus our attention now on this. Now, delays in judges and magistrates, I would assume, but certainly judges delivering their judgments is in fact a big issue. And it's been highlighted in a report just released. Unfortunately, right at the top are not only of the judicial system, but in terms of its lateness, the Constitutional court, the Apex Court, has 14 late judgments. 8 of them are still pending beyond the 6-month benchmark. So what's going on here, and what does this say about the judiciary? What is the 6-month benchmark? Clearly there's a problem, but it's a problem I don't understand as well as I would like. So let's welcome to 702 Drive our regular guest on these kinds of matters, Mbegazeli Benjamin, researcher at Judges Matter, joining us on 702 Drive. Mr. Benjamin, welcome and thanks very much for your time. This is called the Reserved Judgment Report. What is the purpose of this report?
Good afternoon, John, and good afternoon to the listeners. Welcome back. The purpose of the Reserved Judgments Report basically is to give an indication of how quickly the cases in the superior courts are moving, especially the cases relating to judgments. So the Reserved Judgments Report tells us that in a certain period of time, these were the cases that were outstanding. This is how long they've been outstanding. This is the judge who is holding up the case, and that information is vital for accountability purposes. Because, in as much as judges have this power to independently arrive at decisions, they must do so within a reasonable time. And you asked earlier about the 6 months and the 3 months. That is set out in the norms and standards for court performance. So those are legislative legal guidelines that set out when a judge must deliver the work, and if they don't deliver the work, then it is considered a late judgment, and there are consequences to that.
Well, I don't know where the consequences come from, because they would presumably come from the Chief Justice, to which any judge being hauled over the coals may well say, well, you guys are pretty late on a couple of things as well. But tell us this, I mean, what are the consequences of late judgments? Because my understanding is in every single matter, there's somebody who needs to know the status of the decision as soon as possible. I mean, I can't think of a case where that wouldn't be the case.
Yes, absolutely. There is, at the end, the reason why you go to court is for you to get an outcome, and that outcome determines how you should move on with your life. Whether it is a divorce, for example, or whether you've made a claim against someone, you want to be paid that money, because the longer you wait for that payment, the value of money diminishes. If you have a business also, and also on most other aspects, and this is where I think judges matter, is that they affect so much of our lives. And so we do have this expectation that as soon as you are dismissed and you take a case to the labor court, you want to be reinstated back to your job as quickly as possible. And so that's why there is this requirement in the law that judges deliver on their judgment as quickly as possible. The standard is that you must deliver it within 3 months of the last hearing date when the case was reserved, but there is an allowance for a further 3 months depending on the complexity of the case and the nature of the issues involved.
I'm just looking at the reports, and I mean, there are some judges. For example, they refer to Judge Nomsa Khumalo of the Pretoria High Court, 16 judgments outstanding for more than 6 months. She previously also, I guess in an earlier report, had the highest number of late judgments. Judge Cecile Williams of the Kimberley High Court, 9 late judgments. I mean, how do they get to so many judgments before somebody says, well, hang on a moment, this is not working and what you're doing isn't working either?
So it depends really on where the judge is.
Right.
So the High Court in Gauteng, in Johannesburg and Pretoria, those High Courts handle 52% of all civil cases in the country. And particularly in Pretoria, it's the busiest High Court in the country. It handles the most cases that involve national government departments. And so the judges there are almost always inundated with work. And so for us, it's not surprising when you see that a judge of Pretoria is the one that sort of holds the dubious title of being the most tardiest of all judges. But over time, when we've observed these reports, there are two things that we are noting that are a bit of an improvement. Number one, the number of judges who are listed on the reports, they are reducing. So that means the vast majority of judges are delivering judgments on time. But we're also seeing the number of judgments that are outstanding. In previous times,
Yes.
The numbers were up to close to 2,000. Now they are reducing, even though in this latest report they haven't reduced from the last reporting period. But also the period of time in which the judgments have been outstanding. So in most cases, it's a little over 6 months. In some cases, it gets to 10, 12 months. But it's only in those few exceptional cases where you see 18 months or 17 months that the judgment is outstanding. But like you said, every single judgment is required to be delivered as quickly as possible. So we are not at all excusing any of the judges.
So, I mean, it would be tempting and perhaps a temptation we should resist, Mr. Benjamin, to personalize this and say, well, it's this judge or that judge. There clearly seems to be a systemic issue. For example, I mean, do we have too few judges? I know this is looking for an analogy here. It's not exactly the same, but, you know, it's one thing to say detectives don't solve crime. But if, as revealed by a Build One South Africa question in Parliament, the national detective shortage is 2,344. If we're short of judges, this would be no great surprise if indeed people have just got more matters on their plate than they can handle.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that's the context in which we must read the numbers. The fact is that for the last 15 years, we have not had an increase in the number of judges in our courts, particularly in Gauteng. If you look at the population of Gauteng 15 years ago, it was about 10 million people. Now we are close to 15 million people, and we know that there are many more cases that come to the courts today than they ever were in the past. And so we do see a lot of judges being inundated with work. They are barely coping with some of the work. And so that's why you are more likely to see the judges at the 6-month mark rather than the 3-month mark. That's when the allowance was made. So we need more judges in the system, but also the support structures. In Pretoria, there are 44 judges. Those 44 judges each have to share 6 researchers. So there are 6 researchers for the whole court of 42 judges, and that the normal standard should be that each judge should have a researcher allocated to them. So you see already that the resources that are there to make sure that the judge delivers the judgment within the allocated time in terms of the norms and standards, they don't have those resources, and which is why you're seeing these judgments take a longer time. So really the conversation should turn to National Treasury and funding the judiciary properly, making sure that there are more judges to serve the population of the Gauteng province and other provinces as well.
I mean, I'm assuming, and just a final question briefly, if you can, Mr. Benjamin, 6 researchers for, I think you said 42 judges or 44. Either way, it's insane to my... because their jobs must be untenable as well. I mean, who would want to be able to tell a judge, hey, take a number? I can't help you today. Surely that's not because of a shortage of good, younger, presumably people who could actually do an excellent job. Is this purely budgetary? Because it seems to me that the savings you might make on not hiring these people will be massively, massively outweighed by the cost to the court system of not getting the jobs done.
Yeah, the question really boils down to the money, John, because we as judges have tried to raise some funding to assist in the courts. We have an internship running, and within 2 days, we receive more than 500 applications. So there are people who are ready and willing to do the job. It's just that there are no opportunities. And even the researchers that are there in the court, they are inundated. And they do say to the judges that you must take a number, you must wait in queue. And eventually judges say, I can't wait. I need to deliver this judgment. People have been waiting for too long.
Extraordinary. Okay, thank you very much, Mbegazeli Benjamin. Maybe you've worked as a judge and you've got a sense of this, on the one hand, massive pressure to get things done. On the other hand, the resources being shrunk all the time. Call us about that if you like. And if you're involved in a matter where the judgment has been very, very slow in coming, please do give us a call on that on 011 883-0702 or 072-702-1702.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
Weekdays, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m.
Would there be any action being taken by him?
People want to see big profile names behind bars. With respect to the members of the executive who are implicated in the Commission's report, you and the listeners will recall that those individuals have exercised a right that's available within our legal system to take that report on review. Until such time, the President cannot apply any punitive measures.
The Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
Weekdays,
12 p.m. to 1 p.m.
only on Cape Talk.
Join the conversation.
So we did a thing, a full commitment kind of thing. We've partnered with Sixt to bring Worldwide to your doorstep. So you see how that's a serious thing, because that's what you deserve. We know you're the GOAT, so premium it is. Premium service, premium vehicles, premium you, premium us. Sani Sixt is all about adding extra to ordinary. Extra reach, extra countries, so you can be extra premium worldwide. Be the greatest of all time and rent Sani Sixt.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care? Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult day 3731. I'm really struggling to explain my parents to my therapist. Might send him to live with them so he can see for himself. What if he ends up in therapy too? Wait, what if they love him more than me?
Finally learning about mental health. Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's convenient and like 19 Rand a day, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
This is EWN.
Yet another delay in the Lusikisiki murder trial, and an EFF councillor claims assault after being chased out of a sitting. Good afternoon, I'm Monki Zikoko. There's been yet another delay in the Lusikisiki massacre case in the Eastern Cape, as the matter has once again been postponed. 6 men are accused of the gruesome mass murder where 18 people were shot and killed at Ngobazana village. Today, the matter returned to the Mthatha High Court sitting in the Lusikisiki Magistrates Court for trial proceedings, with the state expected to lead evidence from its first witness. However, following a long adjournment, the matter was set aside for tomorrow. Nhlanhla Mabaso reports.
Today's proceedings started late due to one of the legal representatives having arrived late in court due to a civil unrest. And when proceedings finally started, the state submitted affidavits and post-mortem results. The post-mortem results, which have been medically proven, show that the victims were shot and killed with high-caliber firearms. All defense lawyers, including accused Wani Mzuki Sindamase, who is legally representing himself, did not oppose. However, due to some outstanding issues between the state and defense, the court took a long adjournment for discussions in chambers. The case continues tomorrow. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Lusikisiki, Eastern Cape.
Let's turn to this now. The Zondo Commission of Inquiry into State Capture has recovered 11 billion rand in assets. This was revealed by President Cyril Ramaphosa in a statement updating on the progress of the inquiry. The commission, which began in 2018 investigating allegations of fraud and corruption within the public sector, implicated 1,438 people. However, of that figure, only 200 of the cases are being investigated for criminal charges. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya.
5 new laws have been passed coming out of that report. 11 billion rands has been recovered in terms of asset recovery. The government spent 1 billion rand on the commission. 11 billion rand is now in the fiscus coming out of that work. Institutions such as the NPA are being strengthened.
In the Western Cape, an EFF councillor has been allegedly choked by a security official at the Cape Town city centre. This after refusing to leave a council meeting. Sub-Council 13 councillor Mzumbanzi Dumbaza says he lost consciousness while being choked by a security official during the meeting. Dambuza says police are investigating the incident. Carlo Peterson has more.
Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis addressed a full council meeting today about the city's infrastructure budget for the 2024-2025 financial year. EFF councillor Mzubanzi Dambuza says the speaker asked him to leave the chamber after he raised concerns about being heckled by DA councillors. Dambuza says he was accosted by a security officer after he refused to leave.
One of the officers started choking me from behind because I was under the table holding in one of the poles, and then started pulling me and choking me.
Dambuza says he has laid a criminal complaint and police are investigating the matter. The Good Party has since called for the council speaker, Felicity Purchase, to step aside, saying she has consistently failed to act fairly. The city is yet to respond to EWN's request for a response. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
Just a rectification on that name, Mzubanzi Dambuza. Let's turn to this now. The Health Ombudsman says an acute staff shortage has resulted in poor management and ultimately the deaths of 3 patients from the Northern Cape Mental Health Hospital. The Ombudsman revealed its findings today into the treatment complications and deaths of psychiatric patients at the Northern Cape Mental Hospital and Robert Mangalisa Subuke Hospital. Now, the incidents, which occurred in July and August last year, were investigated in terms of Section 81A of the National Health Amendment Act 2013. The report revealed gross mismanagement, failure to provide urgent medical care, lack of functional equipment, and extreme infrastructural deficiencies. Health Ombudsman Professor Taule Mokoena says the Northern Cape Mental Hospital, in particular, faces an acute shortage of staff.
As a result, the hospital is working at 53% of its commissioned capacity. The hospital operates some of the shifts without professional nurses. The nursing and the medical staff do not keep up to date with patient vital signs, and there was generally poor record keeping.
And US President Donald Trump says that Indian imports will face 25% tariffs to counter what he has described as the country's obnoxious trade policies. Trump posted on his Truth Social platform that the measures will kick in this coming Friday. He also added that there will be a penalty for India's purchases of Russian weapons and energy. Gold is trading at $3,325.91 an ounce. The rand is at 17.87 to the dollar, 23.88 to the pound, 20.59 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $71.91 a barrel.
On the N12 West, there's a stationary truck in the left lane after Voortrekker Road. Traffic's backed up to the M2. And on the M1 South, traffic slow-moving at Houghton Drive to Anderson Street. And in Tshwane on the N1 South, there's a stationary vehicle after Garsfontein Road. The centre lane is closed.
In your sport, Jermaine Siposengwe confirms Banyana were involved in a standoff with Safa over money just hours before their game against Ghana at WAFCON. Luke Shaw supports Ruben Amorim's no-nonsense approach at Manchester United. And Grigor Dimitrov to miss the US Open with a pectoral injury.
A fine Thursday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Johannesburg drops to an overnight low of 2 degrees, peaking at a high of 20. Pretoria is at 3 and 21. Vereeniging 2 and 21 as well. The top story in EWN this hour. There has been yet another delay in the Lusikisiki massacre case in the Eastern Cape, as the matter has once again been postponed.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7:02 Drive, it's 8 minutes past 4, middle of the week. How's your Wednesday been? Hope that it's been at least a decent day. Weekend not too far off, but hey, I know that many of you really enjoy your jobs, really enjoy working at whatever it is that you do. And, you know, it's not that you don't look forward to the weekend, but certainly a lot of people I speak to do not hate the working week. I also appreciate that some people are doing stuff they don't enjoy, working with perhaps and for bosses they don't particularly like. So I get that as well. Anyway, hope your Wednesday was good. I hope your Wednesday evening looks promising. Coming up over the next half an hour, a very, very disturbing story indeed. The JMPD have arrested 3 suspects who were seen engaging in drug use with a minor, a child of just 4 years old. I'll go into details of what the video that led to the arrest actually shows. But the critical question is this. So you've got parents who are abusing this child because that's what they're doing. If the child, though, gets taken away from those parents, put into some kind of care, what awaits them there? And we'll talk to Luke Lamprecht, who's head of advocacy at Women and Men Against Child Abuse. That interview coming up shortly. And then in regard to our hospitals, a lot has been written and said about the state of hygiene in public hospitals in Gauteng. What's the real position there? We thought the best people to ask, or amongst the best people, would be the nurses who work up and down in the corridors, because there has been, it would seem, an increase in levels of affection, and quite a steep one at that. But what are the nurses saying? What are they arguing needs to be fixed? Richard Banda, provincial chairperson of the Nurses Union Denosa, is my guest at about 22 minutes past 4.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072 702 1702.
Good afternoon, Dr. John and 702 listeners. Listening to Mbegezeli Benjamin about the stats that he's quoting regarding the judges, then we shouldn't be surprised. It is no wonder then when these guys take up to 2 years or sometimes 1.5 years to deliver, because it is impossible. They're supposed to have 1-to-1, 1 judge, 1 researcher. Currently is 1 researcher to 7 judges. In 15 years, they even increased the number of judges, yet the population has quadrupled in Johannesburg, and the cases have become more and more even complex. Then I think for those that are able to deliver the verdicts on time, big up to them. And those that could not, I think it is no fault on their part, John. It is humanly, they're facing a difficult task, and we must give thanks to all the judges that are continuing to do this work under difficult circumstances. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, that thing of, I thought one of the most startling things that Mbegezeli Benjamin shared with us, and by the way, if you missed the interview, Prime Media Plus is where you go to have a listen, but saying that more than 40 judges in Pretoria, one of the busiest courts in the country, I think the number was 44 or 42, but either way, let's split the difference and call it 43. They have between them 6 researchers to do that volume of work. Now, 2 things for me are astonishing. The cost of hiring more researchers is money, I get that, but it's certainly not going to break the bank, particularly in a government where the bank is constantly being put under stress by money that is utterly wasted on all sorts of nonsense and all sorts of pilfering, to put it mildly. Let me call it theft. It's ridiculous. We've got a whole court system being held up by that kind of false economy. So if you are a researcher looking to work in the criminal justice system, hopefully that will be put to right. I asked you a little bit earlier about food that you cook really, really slowly, and for who. All I'm getting is the dishes, but I'm not hearing who this food is actually for, and whether this kind of slow cooking actually is a kind of a de-stress mechanism. And Anita Jane says, clean tripe and onions the English way in milk with potatoes. Lightly, hard-bodied chicken. I love that dish. Irina is the number, alongside Marie, who amongst our listeners who are either going for oxtail or lamb shanks. Irina, Marie, and Tamela between them, either oxtail or lamb shanks. Felix spends time cooking beans, and there's quite a lot of tripe being cooked by Palesa, Mukhodu, and Ntebo Giseng, I beg your pardon, Ntebo Giseng, Mala Li Mokhodu. Sampan beans is the choice for Andiswa, and Robbie always puts that time into making a fabulous leg of lamb. It's 14 minutes past 4. Let's find out what's happening in the traffic.
EWN Traffic.
Charlene Leroux with an eye on things. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. That truck that's on the N12 West, just after Voortrekker Road, that's causing a massive backup all the way to Van Buren Road. So allow for extra travelling time if you are travelling out in that area. And on the M1 South, traffic slowing down at Houghton Drive all the way through to Anderson Street. Traffic lights still out in Edenvale at Modderfontein and Van Riebeeck Road, in Midrand at Old Pretoria and Olifantsfontein Road, and in Four Ways at Cedar and Uranium, and in Rand Park Ridge at the N1 and Bayers Nordia. If you're out in Tshwane on the N1 South, there's a stationary vehicle that's in the centre lane just after Hartsfontein Road, and on the N1 South there's heavy traffic that's from Linwood Road all the way to Rigel Avenue, and traffic lights still out at the R55 and Thatchfield Road. More Eyewitness News traffic in 15 minutes.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
South Africa has porous borders and has therefore become a smuggler's paradise.
Ports of entry pose a very serious risk because that is where these syndicates and others use to traffic people in. We will be establishing a task team for the Cape Town airport and also launching a guideline, a manual to assist and guide those working in this field.
Andres now.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Can leadership rooted in integrity and authenticity reshape South Africa's future? Join the Legacy Leadership Summit happening on the 14th of November as they pose this and other valuable questions to the minds shaping our leadership future. Hosted by the Henley Business School, this event features Professor Thuli Madonsela, Dr. Alistair Mokoena, Mr. Terry Boyson, and other respected voices in business and governance. Find more information at Legacy Leadership Summit on Facebook and Instagram.
As a business owner, would you rather deal with stacks of slips at the end of each day or have recons done instantly? Introducing Yoko Counter, the new all-in-one payments and points of sale system that removes the guesswork, the paperwork, and the time drain. Taking your business from chaos to control, guesswork to clarity, giving you back time to focus on what truly matters. Visit yoko.com today to find out more about the simple yet powerful out-of-the-box solution with free built-in point-of-sale software.
Hey besties, welcome to my kitchen tour, or should I say my new walk-in wardrobe. Over here we have the pantry, now home to my jeans and shirts, all color-coded. Oh, and the air fryer, literally the perfect place for my makeup brushes. And who would have thought, the oven is the place to store my handbags.
Who needs a kitchen? Simply spend 200 Rand or more and you could win Simply Asia for a year. T's and C's apply. Simply Asia, connecting the Thai way.
Welcome to the brand new days.
Sail the world with Norwegian Cruise Line, with more to see, more to do, and more to enjoy. Plus, upgrade your holiday with NCL's More at Sea for premium beverages, specialty dining, and much more. Think international cruising. Think NCL. For the best deals available, visit ncl.com or contact your travel agent. Restrictions apply.
Welcome to the brand new days.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
18 minutes past 4. Now, this is a very troubling story indeed. 3 people have been arrested following a viral video. Adults in that video are themselves smoking a Mandrax pipe. There's a young boy in the picture as well. And a number of people, including the boy's mother, are seen encouraging the child to light up the pipe and then urging him to pull on the pipe. In other words, draw in the smoke, I think, on 2 occasions. Police have now made the arrests. The likely outcome, I would have thought, is that this child will be removed from the care of his parents. That, some people would say, is the only thing you can do, given the enormous risk he appears to be facing, certainly based on that video. But what awaits a child? Because that presumably would be very traumatic as well. To be separated from your parents in that way. So what's the normal way of going about things, and is there a better way? Luke Lamprecht is head of advocacy at Women and Men Against Child Abuse and joins us now. Mr. Lamprecht, welcome and thanks very much for your time. There is, I suppose, an obvious step to be taken. I don't know what procedures are involved where the child is removed from the care of adults who clearly are in a position and already are causing him some harm. But is the system well set up to give him at least a reasonably soft landing as he emerges out of that situation? Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, John. Thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering how much of my question you heard.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I heard all of it. So you asked 1,000 questions. So I'm going to break it down. So let's start at the beginning. First of all, if these parents are arrested, they are in jail, and as a result, there's no one at home to care for the child.
Right.
So by default, when the parents are arrested, you would obviously place the child in some form of care. Now, for younger children in South Africa, so I'm talking about infants, toddlers, and probably primary school children, the system is actually very well set up. The facilities, I have to place a baby at the moment. I've got 3 placements I can place the baby in. The placements are very well set up, lovely people, caring, well-resourced, because people like looking after babies and small children. If the boy was a teenager of 15 and, on drugs and having behavioral or criminal trouble, much more complicated, and our system is most certainly not set up for those children. So for this child, and that's why, identifying these cases when the children are small, we work on a concept called family preservation, but family preservation requires for a family to be present. Now, if you are looking at people who are laughing at little children lighting their mandrax pipes, you're making them smoke, you're laughing, you're kind of goading them on, you're using all the gangster slang that comes with it, you are not a family. You are people who did not plan, nor do you want your child, and as a result, we need to ensure that the child gets a psychological family in order for them to develop optimally. So we wouldn't want a child to be in any form of institutional care. We would want some form of what we call cluster foster care, foster care where it's a family unit, and that family unit behaves as a family unit, and the child lives in a community rather than in kind of these big facilities, orphanages you see in movies. And that would give the child the best chance to develop optimally. Bearing in mind that the other problem with this is that mandrax is and marijuana are lethal for brains in critical phases of human development, that being infancy and adolescence. So the child would have to be seen medically. Are there going to be withdrawals? We need to manage that. We need to see if there's other harm that's being caused to this child. The child has to receive medical attention in terms of neglect. And when a child is placed, all of that is done. So a full medical is done prior to placement to ensure that the child is physically well. Otherwise, the child needs to be hospitalized pending their treatment and placement in a facility.
Thank you very much. A very, very comprehensive picture. And good news, I would suggest. I mean, much of what he was saying suggests that when younger children are involved, systems work pretty well. Luke Lamprecht, head of advocacy at the organization Women and Men Against Child Abuse. If you've had direct experience, perhaps you're a social worker involved in rescuing, I think it's a fair term, rescuing young people who are facing these kinds of things. Maybe you've got your own thoughts on what Luke Lamprecht was saying a moment ago. 23 minutes past 4.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Let's turn to something else then. Kind of related, I suppose, but more in the health sector. Question asked of Gauteng Health MEC Nomantu Nkomo Ralehuku, a question put by the DA's Jack Bloom recently, said that out of 217,490 patients in the care of public facilities, public hospitals in South Africa, 7,743 of them became infected while they were actually in hospital. Now, in the previous year, that number was 2,034. That suggests a massive jump. Certainly the number does. And although we don't have the figure there of how many people were hospitalized, but even so, that does suggest there's a problem. South African Medical Association has been saying the problem is severe. There's been some pushback, I think, from the Department of Health saying that the figures are not being correctly understood. We thought we'd ask the organization, one of the organizations that represents people who work right in the heart of the hospital, South Africa's nurses. Richard Bongani Banda is provincial chairperson of the Nurses Union, Tenosa, and we welcome him to 702 Drive. Mr. Banda, thank you for your time. Do we have a cleanliness and hygiene problem in Gauteng hospitals? And if we do, how bad is it?
Thank you very much, John, and good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, look, we really need to maybe categorically state it that the issues that we are seeing happening in the hospitals are issues that we've been talking about and that have been submitted to the HOD and to the MEC and the Premier. And indeed, the hygiene within the hospitals, it is quite bad simply because of the issue that is affecting these issues, which is the shortage of staff within the hospitals and the overcrowding. And I can tell you now that the issue of the shortage of staff, as long as it is not addressed as supposed to, will never get to advance or rather get to where we want to get, specifically with the issue of cleaning and the issue also of the hospital-acquired infections within the hospitals.
Yeah. And how much of this is due to a shortage of equipment? Because I'm looking at a quote from the South African Medical Association's Vezi Silwanyana, who says routine surface swabs, cleaning, materials for cleaning, shortage of the basics is causing a lot of these problems. What are your members telling you?
Well, the English saying, but maybe let's start with the budget that was announced or rather was made from the finance MEC, where it clearly stated that most of the amount of the money that was mostly put into the grants through your programs that you are having within the Department of Health, and then the equitable share was not considered much. And now that on its own, with the crippled budget, it will make it difficult for the department to be able to procure or to secure equipment that needs to be utilized within the hospitals. And then, be as it may be, the challenge then will be that there will never be enough resources to meet the ministerial priorities, which one of them is sufficient resources and equipment. So those are the things that we're experiencing where equipment are not enough. And with the people who are supposed to execute the duties that seeks to advance the cleanliness within the wards and also taking care of the patients from acquiring these infections, it won't be done as supposed to because of this lack of attention being put to healthcare system by the Department of Finance, and also the department not advancing what is supposed to, specifically on issue of shortage, which is the moratorium that we have seen happening within the department in Gauteng.
Thank you very much, Richard Bongani Banda, Provincial Chairperson of the Nurses Union, Tenosa. If you work in a hospital, whether as a nurse, or in admin, perhaps you might be an administrator or a doctor, is there a serious hygiene problem in Gauteng's public hospitals? Call me with that on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Describe the problem, if you will, but also if you can see a way to solve it, not necessarily solve it in its entirety, but certainly to improve things, I'd love to hear that as well. The number again, 072 702 1702. It's 28 minutes past 4.
EWN Business.
This EWN Business is brought to you by Bright. Bright doesn't just provide business insurance, they insure your future success. Bright Insurance is a licensed insurer and authorized FSP. Stephen Curtis with the very latest. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, John. Well, a little bit of a sort of cautious day on the JSE. A couple of factors for that. I think we're expecting, obviously, trade tariffs from the US president on Friday, and the Reserve Bank is giving its view on interest rates tomorrow. Most people are expecting a 25% basis point cut. The JSE All Share at the moment up 0.15, 99,310 points. Financials up 0.85, industrials down 0.29, and resources down 0.1. So platinum prices slightly higher. That's helping Valterra despite its big series of results, its half-year results that came out earlier in the week. Platinum at just under $1,400. So that might be helping them. Northern Implats all up as well on the day. But Valterra up nearly 4%, in fact. And then, John, interesting to look at some of the consumer shares. So Truworths, Mr. Price, both up by over 3%. Spar, the Foschini Group, both up by nearly 3%. Pepcor, they're up by 2.25%. I suspect maybe a little bit of anticipation of more consumer spending if we do get that interest rate cut tomorrow. And of course, we'll have the latest on that from around 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Shares in AECI, they make things that go boom. Their shares are up 0.7%. Their headline earnings were up by over 130% in the 6 months to the end of June. It says operations have increased their profitability by an explosive 25%. Also had some power supply issues to their main factory in Modderfontein. In fact, they basically had to sort that out themselves, so that cost them a fair bit of money. Fin24 reporting also that the market for chemicals is quite tight. In fact, 3 major customers for AECI. 2 of their 3 major customers are in business rescue at the moment. They're also a little concerned about the US tariffs. Just ahead of that interest rate decision, by the way, BankServe Africa, the take-home pay index, saying nominal take-home pay was down 0.1% in June to 17,310 Rand a month. But on a year-on-year basis, nominal pay is up by nearly 12%. Essentially, take-home pay is slightly down month-on-month, but real pay is up compared to this time last year. You didn't notice, neither did I. Looking at gold shares today, Anglo Gold, they're down nearly 2.5%, DRD down about 1.7%, while Aspen is down 2.22%, and Naspers is down 1.5% on the day. In the US, sort of a cautious open. So GDP figures came in the US. They were better than expected. In the second quarter of the year, the American economy grew at a 3% annualized rate. But, and this is where it gets a little messy, depending on who you talk to, it would seem there's been a lot of input and trade activity ahead of tariffs, and that's sort of distorting the picture. At the same time, there's been a moderate increase in consumer spending. The Dow Jones is flat, up 0.01%. The Nasdaq is up 0.23%. The S&P 500 is up 0.1%. The gold price, $3,306.10 an ounce. Platinum, $1,399.10. Brent crude picking up slightly, $72.81. The rand to the dollar slightly weaker, John, still I think ahead of Friday, 17.93 to the euro, 20.57 to the British pound, 23.83. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
At Bright, we don't just provide business insurance, we insure your business's
future success.
Because your business is so much more than desks and computers and equipment, which is why we use our specialist expertise to tailor solutions for each client differently to ensure what's really important. So insure your businesses.
Financial security, BT.
With Bright today, contact your broker or go to brightinsure.co.za to find out more. Bright. Approach risk with purpose. Bright is a licensed insurer and authorized FSP.
Right, let's get the very latest eyewitness news at 28 minutes to 5. Starting off, I think, in the Constitutional Court. Mongezi Koko, good afternoon.
That's right, Ntate John, good afternoon. Lawyers for Umkhonto weSizwe Party leader Jacob Zuma say President Cyril Ramaphosa is abusing the Constitution to shield Police Minister Senzo Mchunu. The Constitutional Court is hearing Zuma's challenge to Ramaphosa's decision to place Police Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave and to appoint Feroz Kachalia as acting minister. Now, Zuma's legal team, led by Advocate Dali Mpofu, wants the decision overturned and the appointment declared invalid. They're also asking the court to scrap a new judicial commission of inquiry. They argue that having 2 police ministers and launching yet another commission is unnecessary and unconstitutional. Ramaphosa says the steps were taken to protect the integrity of law enforcement following serious claims made by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. However, Mpofu disagrees.
The problem with this president is he literally wants to do what is called, you want to have your cake and eat it too. So he wants to appoint Professor Kachalia, but he wants to save Minister Mchunu. That's really, this whole maneuver is about that. How do I save my friend and close political ally, give him a salary for the next 3 years, 5 years, God knows for how long, while he's doing nothing?
About 400 high-risk employees at the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure are currently undergoing lifestyle audits. This includes senior managers in supply chain management, finance and other sectors where officials are exposed to potential corruption. The audits are aimed at determining whether senior government officials are living within their means. Thabiso Goba reports.
When Dean McPherson took up the role of Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure more than a year ago, one of his first decisions was to announce an investigation into a cybersecurity scam which allegedly defrauded the department of about 300 million rand. The minister recently released the damning findings of a forensic investigation he commissioned into the irregular 800 million rand oxygen plant tender. McPherson says this and more has necessitated the need for lifestyle audits of senior managers in high-risk positions within the department.
If you are arriving in a very expensive Porsche, how did you get that Porsche? If you just had R1 million that paid off your bond, how did you do that on your salary? This is not a witch hunt. This is to make sure that we only have the most ethical people working in our department.
McPherson says the audits will be complete by March next year. Thabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
Police have confirmed that a 4-year-old boy seen on a viral video clip being instructed by his mother to take drugs is now in the care of the Child Protection Unit. The footage has been circulating online showing 3 adults encouraging the boy to light up what police say is Mandrix and further telling him to smoke. The 3 suspects, including the boy's mother, were arrested in Johannesburg yesterday. JMPD spokesperson Xolani Fihla says the child is now in safe hands.
The suspects were promptly arrested on charges of child abuse and neglect. The cell phones were confiscated as evidence, and all 3 suspects were detained at Sophia Town SAPS. Crucially, the child involved in the video has been safely removed from the environment and placed into the secure care of the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit.
And US President Donald Trump says he probably won't attend the G20 summit in South Africa. He rehashed debunked claims of white citizens being persecuted and killed in the country. Now, Trump took aim at South Africa early in his second term, fixating on claims elevated by his then ally Elon Musk, who was born in the country of persecution of white citizens. Asked aboard Air Force One if he planned to attend the leaders' summit in November, Trump had this to say.
I don't think so, no. I think maybe I'll send somebody else because I've had a lot of problems with South Africa and they have some very bad policies. Very, very bad policies, like policies where people are being killed. A lot of people are being killed. So I think I probably won't.
A fine day in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Temperatures drop to lows of between 2 and 3, peaking at highs of between 20 and 21. The top story in EWN this hour, lawyers for Umkhonto weSizwe Party leader Jacob Zuma say President Cyril Ramaphosa is abusing the constitution to shield Police Minister Senzo Mchunu.
This past Sunday, Joburg walked the talk together. Thousands stepped up, stepped out, and stepped forward. And none of it would have been possible without the incredible partners who walked this journey with us.
Walk the talk, it's a very important platform, and it just shows how the demographics have changed, how we have moved as a country. Now it's a rainbow walk, united in a walk for a cause. So as the Gauteng Tourism Authority, we're quite proud to be associated with such a platform, with a perfect partner like Prime Media and 702. So we are going nowhere. We're an integral part of the family. 702 are an integral part of where we want to go.
A heartfelt thank you to every sponsor who made this year's 702 Walk the Talk possible. You powered the spirit of a city walking as one. The 702 Walk the Talk was hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane.
Want to celebrate Women's Day in style? Then get your tickets as Grammy Award-winning singers Anthony Hamilton and Joe Thomas come together to celebrate the incredible women of Mzansi on 9 August. Happening at the iconic DP World Wanderers Stadium in Sandton. They will be joined by South Africa's multi-award-winning singers, the incomparable Zonke, Schava and Vusi Nova. Get your tickets now on CompuTicket or at webtickets.co.za. Brought to you by Soulful Night, Vertex Events and 702.
Did you ever work in the UK? If you did for at least 3 years and you're under 67, you can get a guaranteed UK state pension worth up to 5 million rand over a typical retirement for just a small payment directly to UK revenue. Most people get 40 rand back for every rand they pay in. There's a big queue at UK revenue as this opportunity may end soon, so act fast. Call Extra Pension in Cape Town or see extrapension.com. Mind your UK pension and it'll mind you. Service fees apply.
PG Glass Repair, PG Glass Replace.
I'm Delane, PG Glass Technician. Got a chip? With our advanced tools and high-tech equipment, we can repair it.
World-class repair technology only at PG Glass. Visit pg.co.za.
Prepare for an exhilarating new Hollywood Bets exclusive. You could win big with our exciting new bingo range from Coletta Gaming. Turbocharge your betting experience and enjoy your bounty bonanza when you try Banana Bingo, Bingo Royale, and many more. Chase funky fortunes and get into the groove for a chance to max your numbers. Reap riveting rewards when you log in and play now. Hollywood Bets. It's more fun to bet with us. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
As a patient at Helen Joseph Hospital, I would like to give praise to the staff and management. Under these difficult circumstances, they are trying. I was impressed. All the public toilets, except one, have been refurbished, wards repainted, everything. I'm impressed. I know they are trying, it's difficult, but what I saw, I'm happy with Helen Joseph. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great, and well done to everyone responsible for that improvement at Helen Joseph. A couple of other listeners sharing their views on the issues of hygiene and cleanliness in Gauteng's public hospitals. Haley says, I'm a nursing sister who trained in the 80s. In those days, it was the junior nurses to do a thing called wet dusting. We had to clean everything with a basin of disinfectant solution every morning. We cleaned, now in block capitals, everything from the side tables to the basin taps, toilets, baths, drip stands, bed rails, etc. We had very low hospital infections. Haley says. Monique says, just got back from South Rand Hospital after spending a whole day there. The public loos are a disgrace. No toilet paper, no seats, toilet seats in the ladies. Can't lock the doors. Dread to think what the men's are like. One would have to squat over the toilet. Very, very unhygienic. Also, that's that. And then from Kingsley, the reality on the ground is that the average South African is terrified of being admitted to a government hospital. I'm also baffled at how various sectors or professions such as hospitals and the police, teachers are also leaving the profession, are understaffed when our unemployment rate is so high. Is the high rate of reinfection yet another factor that must be carefully considered when we look at the NHI and its implications? Kingsley asks, despite what our constitution says, the lived reality is that good quality healthcare, with few exceptions, is not accessible to all South Africans. Your views, keep those coming, please. It's 18 minutes to 5.
EWN Sport.
Okay, the very latest sporting news with Tolakele Mganga. Good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, John. And Jermaine Siposengwe believes that a lack of transparency is at the core of Banyana's financial disagreements with SAFA. Her comments come after she retired from the national team following the conclusion of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations. In a wide-ranging interview on Marawa Sports Worldwide on 947, she revealed that after CAF increased the prize money for the tournament, the association didn't come back to renegotiate on bonuses, while the players were also involved in another boycott ahead of their bronze medal match against Ghana.
The country expects us to do these amazing things, but they don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They don't know how we're suffering, how we're treated, how we have to constantly fight. And I can tell you one thing that happened at the WAFCON. Before the Ghana game, the players were boycotting because we hadn't come to an agreement with the association. And we left for the game late. We were supposed to leave at 5:30, I think, and we only left at 6, got there at 7. The kickoff was at 8. Like, why is that an issue? Why are we doing these things? And then obviously the country expects us to go onto the field, but they don't know that we were literally sitting in the hotel waiting on our association to come back to us.
Former Canada women's football coach Bev Priestman says she didn't feel safe living in North America following her one-year ban for spying at the Paris Olympics. She was confirmed as the new Wellington Phoenix head coach today as she returned to football in the same country where she was banned for spying on with a drone. Over to Europe, where Manchester United defender Luke Shaw has backed head coach Ruben Amorim's hardline approach that's improving the toxic and unhealthy culture at the club. In May, Shaw questioned whether he and his teammates were good enough to play for the Red Devils, comments that drew criticism from fans and former players, including Gary Neville.
His mentality, his demands, he's extremely tough on the group. I think, he leaves no stone unturned, and I think there's no stragglers in this group anymore. I think everyone has to put the team first. He's made that very clear. I think, us as players, we're fully behind him and fully behind on his ideas, and we feel like a real team, especially this pre-season. Since I've been back, the group is so together.
And Grigor Dimitrov will miss the US Open due to the pectoral injury he suffered against world number one Jannik Sinner at Wimbledon. He was 2 sets up against the eventual winner in the fourth round before having to retire due to a partial tear of his right pectoral muscle. Him missing the major in New York means that Dimitrov's incredible run of 58 consecutive Grand Slams, that's since the 2011 Australian Open, will come to an end. Tholakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
4:45 now on 702 Drive. Let's update you on what's happening out on the roads. Charlene Leroux, what's it like? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Well, it looks like that truck that's on the N12 West is causing heavy backup all the way to Gululi's interchange. It's still obstructing the left lane. That's just after Voortrekker Road. There was a report earlier of an accident, crash as well. And on the M12, there's a crash at Ilov Street. And on the N12 East, there's a stationary vehicle, and that's in the right lane at De Ploof interchange. And if you're on the M1 South, traffic slowing down at Houghton Drive to Anderston Street. And if you're in Tshwane on the N1 South, there's a stationary vehicle. It's after Garsfontein Road, and the centre lane is still closed. More Eyewitness News traffic in 15 minutes.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
.702 Drive, it's 14 minutes to 5 o'clock. Still to come on 702 Drive. We're going to talk to a learner at the St. Benedict's College School in Johannesburg, and we're going to find out how this particular learner came up with an idea for an award-winning play that they scripted and directed. Fabulous stuff. And we'll talk more about what the play is, a little bit about the intensity of competition for the prize of being the top drama school in the country. More of that coming up your way at about 20 minutes past 5.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Also, sooner than that, minding your money, some great financial advice from certified financial planner Paul Rulofse. But first, we were talking a little bit earlier about the ways in which, when we were younger, we were warned not to do things that might lead us getting into some kind of physical harm. The one thing I was always told, and I can't even remember who told me this, but under no circumstances should you go swimming after lunch, that you might have some kind of physical reaction that could lead to you getting into serious trouble in the water and maybe even drowning. So that was the one that stuck to mind for me. This all came up in the context of walking behind horses. I was always told, to me it was a no-brainer, you never walk behind a horse in case it decides to kick up backwards and do you some significant and serious damage. But I'm just wondering, what were the things you were told not to do as a way of keeping you safe from harm, even if you scrutinized them and gave them some kind of logical cross-examination? Maybe you'd find, well, actually there wasn't really any great risk there. But nevertheless, because it was drummed into you, you are now drumming it into people younger than you. If you've got a story to tell, please do give us a call on that on 011 883 0702. Rifue Letsua putting together today's show with Kabazela. Rifue, what were you warned about?
Good afternoon, John, and to the rest of the 702 family. So I was warned about eating while lying on my stomach, because I did that quite a lot as a kid.
Okay.
And I just thought my mom was just being a mom. Until I ate on my stomach one day and I started choking, then I threw up. But do
Okay.
you think that stopped me from doing that?
I would have thought it would, but clearly it didn't.
I still do it.
But why are you on your stomach? Are you watching telly or what?
I could be watching telly, reading on my phone, or
Okay.
just being lazy. I mean, I could just sit. I'm just being lazy. I'm being honest here. I'm being vulnerable and honest, John. The
So
judgment
you're
on your face.
lazy, there's no judgment on my face, but what you are seeing is a degree of bewilderment. Okay, I've never eaten lying on my stomach, I don't think, and don't expect it to become a habit anytime soon. Tola Kele, what were you warned about as a young person? Did you take it to heart? And if you did, have you spread the word?
The main thing I was warned about is never to drink more than 1 cup of coffee a day. Otherwise, it just causes you to be anxious and doing too much throughout the day. No, I don't warn other people about it anymore because I am an addict myself. So
Yes.
I can't speak from my glass house because I will be judged. Even this morning when I was at the gym, they were discussing how this week they're going like coffee free. I went there for 30 seconds because I will not
Yes.
be joining that club. I'm sorry. Sometimes you just have to learn by accident or just say, I'm on this ship and I'm going to go down with it.
Or never learn.
Give us your stories, please, on 0727021702. Things you were warned not to do because they were, in inverted commas, dangerous when you were a kid. Are you still sticking to those rules? And if so, what are they? And just to kind of wrap the conversation, are you spreading the word and warning young people around you? Don't do that. That could be bad for you. Give us a call. 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. It's 10 minutes to 5.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
So let's spend some time now talking about money because we do it every Wednesday and we call it Minding Your Money. As always, our guest, certified financial planner, Paul Rulofse. Paul, good afternoon to you. I mean, you've sent us something you've written, 3 reasons why you will never be financially independent. Is that because financial independence is not possible? Or are you saying these are the 3 things people keep doing, which is why they will never be financially independent? Good afternoon to you.
Hi, John. It's probably a combination of both.
Okay.
Because, when we look at financial independence, it's a stage in your life when you eventually get to, you don't need a pay slip, you don't need dependency on a payroll. You have invested and your fruits of those investments can support and maintain your lifestyle going forward. Very few people get there. The statistics are way against us. They haven't improved for decades. At age 65 in South Africa in particular, only about 6% of people get there, whereby they can retire and maintain their lifestyles after that date. But I go back and say, why doesn't it happen, John? Why can't we get there? Why don't we get there? And I think the first obvious reason is that we, along our journey to the future of financial independence, is that we don't put aside enough. We don't invest enough in ourselves.
Yes.
And that's actually a consequence of living it up. We get enticed and drawn into the lifestyle measurements of cars that we drive, places where we stay, schools where the kids go, all those living expenses, which are quite often above our means and not below. And the acid test in that particular equation is to see what ratio of debt you are in. If your debt ratio is less than 30%, you're doing well because that means you can save more. But most South Africans to date, it's around about 70-75% that we're in debt in terms of what we spend on debt every month. And what that simply does, by living up, it's a clear signal that we're living it up. By doing that, we're robbing ourselves of future financial independence because we're not compromising enough in terms of what we are living through the month on. And we simply are, expecting it to get better one day, which is another aspect of why we don't get there.
Yeah.
We think that something big is going to happen and get us out of jail one day sometime, and everything will go away. But it doesn't happen in that space either. Living it up and expecting something big is going to happen, like winning a lottery or a big inheritance of some sort. Those things are few and far between. And that also becomes an expectation which isn't real for most of us.
I mean, it's interesting that last point you made, Paul, because on the one hand, would it be fair to say people in many ways do get kind of mixed messages? Because on the one hand, your notes of caution here make absolute sense. But on the other, there's this thing of, you must have big dreams, and that business you need to start is one day going to be, not quite printing money, but doing really, really well. And maybe people spend on that kind of dream that they are encouraged to have. You're going to get that promotion. One day you too could be the CEO here. I mean, how do you separate your financial planning from your ambition? Because they're both part of you.
No, I think we should never take that away from anyone.
Yes.
Dream big and go for the, shoot for the stars. And obviously, if it's all realistic, and it's a consequence of me growing into that one day. But as long as it's not a consequence of me trying to get out of, debt and the troubles that I'm in, I think that yes, one should have a plan, and it should be very progressive. We should always be aiming for things that we can better ourselves in and move in towards. But the bottom line, John, of financial independence rests with what am I storing aside? What am I putting away? What am I leaning on in terms of compounding and growing into the future?
Right.
If I'm consciously aware of what I earn and what I set aside for my future, I'm on a far more reliable pathway than living and borrowing more to maintain my lifestyle, not saving, and hoping one day my ship will come in and I will be saved. If that's the dream in terms of your point around the business and the things that I want to do, if it's a consequence of trying to get me out of my problems, maybe that's not as realistic as someone who's saying sit down and say, look, I want to be something and I will be something, and let's get going. But always conscious of banking for the future, making sure that I do set aside so that I can maintain this lifestyle that I'm now positioning myself for the future as well.
Thanks very much indeed to our regular guest, financial planner, Paul Roelofse, joining us on Minding Your Money. Anything you want to share with Paul? Any questions you want to ask him, or indeed topics you want to propose for us to put to Paul, and perhaps we can make that the subject matter in weeks to come? Just drop me a note on 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702, 4 minutes to 5.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m.
I know when a person wins the lottery above a certain amount, is particularly with the jackpot, one of the first things that they do is bring in a psychologist. Why would winning a whole lot of money be traumatic, girl? Because I want it.
I always say to people that an incident, or good stress or bad stress, right? So winning the lottery would trigger your actual character sometimes. So for example, if you are not a psychologically healthy person, or you've got certain traits that are just under the surface, so stress can actually bring to the forefront your actual character.
Dr. Itumetse Mashego.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
Don't miss Buscade's one and only Joburg appearance in 2025. The remarkable, versatile and world-renowned Buscade Soweto String Ensemble will be performing a wide range of popular favorites from classical to amapiano. They'll be joined by South Africa's charismatic diva Sibongile Mngoma, singing jazz, blues and rock songs. The concert takes place at the Linda Auditorium on Sunday, the 3rd of August at 3 p.m. Book now at Quicket.
Business Insurance are experts in business insurance for butcheries, restaurants, beauty salons, and more. Yes, Gert.
I definitely have peace of mind that Business Insurance is protecting our business. I do think Business Insurance are the best insurance company out there, and they gave us the best quotes.
Switch to Business Insurance, and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium.
Visit outsurance.co.za. Switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Breaking news, SARS has enhanced the personal income tax return form. It has simpler questions that adapt to your income and deductions based on your answers. Whether you're employed or self-employed, the digital form has built-in guidance and the option to save and finish later. Tax matters, so does your time. File with ease on e-filing or the SARS Mobi app today. Go to sars.gov.za. SARS, at your service.
To every 702 lander who laced up, showed up and walked the talk with us this past Sunday, thank you. The 702 family loved every moment walking, talking and connecting with you on the route. You made the 2025 702 Walk the Talk one for the memory books, and we can't wait to do it all again with you next year. Here's to you, 702 landers, and here's to the 2025 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive, still to come, we are going to be asking some questions about what politicians who find themselves as premiers, ministers, deputy presidents, executive mayors, and so on, what are they actually required to do in regard to business interests that they might have? Do they simply have to give them all up if they have directorships in companies? Are they required to step away from them? Or is simply declaring them enough? And if that's enough to meet all the requirements, is it adequate to prevent all the many problems that we seem to see literally on a daily basis in our country with politicians and senior government officials involved in business deals that are not, absolutely not, to the benefit of the populace? We'll talk about that after 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock now.
This is EWN.
Ramaphosa's legal team defends Mkunu's suspension, and a mother admits to feeding a 4-year-old toddler mandrakes. Good afternoon, I'm Monkey Zikoko. Lawyers representing President Cyril Ramaphosa have argued that the need to investigate the allegations against Police Minister Senzo Mchunu would enable him to dismiss the minister in a way that is consistent with the Constitution. The Constitutional Court is hearing a case brought by the MK party to challenge Ramaphosa's appointment of an acting police minister while Mchunu is suspended. Mchunu's suspension was prompted by an explosive press briefing by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, where he made allegations about Mchunu's links to a crime syndicate in Gauteng. Khomotso has more.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has addressed Parliament and taken questions on his decision not to fire Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, but to place him on suspension, to which he's responded that he cannot fire Mchunu based on untested allegations. Today, his lawyer, Advocate Ngwako Maineche, has taken this argument a step further in the Constitutional Court.
And we would submit that need for investigation in that context is to enable the President to discharge the power to dismiss in a manner that is consistent with the Constitution and the requirement of the principle of rationality.
Maineche says while there's no express provision that says the President can suspend a minister, it's implied in his power to appoint. The President's lawyer says it's good governance on the part of the President to remove Mchunu from his office while he's being investigated. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News at the Constitutional Court.
Police have confirmed that 3 suspects arrested for instructing a 4-year-old boy to smoke drugs have confessed to giving him mandrakes. Now, the trio was nabbed after a video clip of the act went viral earlier this week. In the footage, the suspects encouraged the child to smoke, and a woman identified as his mother is seen smoking drugs from a pipe before handing it to the boy. Police say all 3 suspects admitted to their involvement during questioning. Alpha Ramashwana has that story.
The 3 suspects who are seen on video encouraging the boy to smoke were arrested yesterday and are detained at the Sophia Town Police Station. Police say they were given a tip-off soon after the video went viral, which led them to a house in Nuclear in Johannesburg. This is the same house that the 4-year-old's mother, along with 2 other people, were seen encouraging the child to consume drugs. Johannesburg Metro Police spokesperson Xolani Fihla says the nuclear community was concerned about the situation.
The JMPD commends the vigilance of the community member who provided the tip-off, enabling a rapid response and ensuring the child's safety, and the successful operation underscores JMPD's unwavering commitment to protecting the most vulnerable members of society and holding accountable those who endanger them.
The 4-year-old is now under the care of the Police Services Child Protection Unit. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
The family of murdered 14-year-old Likhona Force says it has not lost hope that the justice system will work to find their child's killers. They spoke to the media moments after the man accused of her murder was set free following the withdrawal of charges against him. 39-year-old Nduduzi Mnisi appeared before the Roodepoort Magistrates Court today when new information ruled him out as a suspect in the case. Thanduluhle Ngobo reports.
14-year-old Likhona Force's family members say they were told the search for more suspects who could have been involved with the murder of their daughter will continue despite today's outcome after the sole suspect was set free. Force's mutilated body was discovered not far from her home in Durban Deep earlier last month. Speaking on behalf of the family, Force's uncle Mtobeli Force says they do not hold any resentment towards Mnisi and never blamed him for her death.
As a family, we are waiting for anything at this point. For now, what has happened has passed and it will not change anything about our situation. But we will continue to search for the person who killed Likhona.
He added that the assurance from police and the support from the community to continue the search for Force's killers has given them new hope. Thanduluhle Ngobo, Eyewitness News.
In the Western Cape, the Good Party has called on the City of Cape Town's council speaker to step down after an EFF councillor was allegedly choked by a security officer during a council meeting. EFF councillor Mzubanzi Dambuza says he lost consciousness while being choked by a security officer after he refused to leave the council chamber. Dambuza says Purchase instructed him to leave after he complained about being heckled by DA councillors. Good Party councillor Roscoe Palm says Purchase failed to apply the rules of order fairly and consistently.
The Speaker must step aside. Her continued presence in that role has now resulted in a grievous assault on a public representative, all because he dared to ask a question. Her actions, inactions and biases have resulted in violence and thuggery that has endangered lives.
The city is yet to respond to EWN's request for a response. And as time runs out for countries across the world to seal a win-win deal with the US, President Donald Trump has announced its latest decision on India. Trump confirmed on his Truth Social account that India will be subjected to tariffs of 25% on imports to the US from Friday. India is among more than 180 countries threatened with higher levies on goods shipped into the US and what the superpower says is part of efforts to even out trade deficits. Nogukanya Mtambo has the details.
President Donald Trump says the US has done little business with India over the years, citing its over-the-top tariffs. He says India has the most strenuous and obnoxious non-monetary trade barriers of any country. In a short statement published on Truth at 2 p.m. local time, Trump says India has always brought a vast majority of their military equipment from Russia and Russia's largest buyer of energy at a time when everyone wants Russia to stop the war in Ukraine. As a result of its trade policy, Trump says there will be an additional penalty for India, in addition to a tariff of 25%. The weight of the penalty has not yet been disclosed. South Africa is also among countries served with a warning for a 30% levy when the 1 August deadline hits. South Africa's trade leaders say they're still negotiating for favourable terms, with less than 2 days to go before the tariffs take effect. Nogukanya Mtambo, Eyewitness News.
Gold is trading at $3,325.91 an ounce. The rand is at 17.88 to the dollar, 23.87 to the pound, 20.59 to the euro. Brent oil is at $71.91 a barrel.
12, there's still that stationary truck in the left lane after Voortrekker Road. Traffic's backed up all the way to Marlborough Drive. It's also affecting the R24 that is backed up to St. Anne's Road. And on the R21 south, there's heavy traffic from Olifantsfontein Road to the R25.
In your sport, Luke Shaw reaches for the stars as he backs Manchester United to be Premier League title contenders. Brandon Taylor recalled by Zimbabwe following the end of his corruption and drugs ban. And John Hastings makes unwanted history with 18 ball over.
The top story in EWN this hour. Lawyers representing President Cyril Ramaphosa have argued that the need to investigate the allegations against Police Minister Senzo Mchunu would enable him to dismiss the minister in a way that is consistent with the Constitution.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's good to have you with us on the show for the last hour. Welcome if you have just tuned in. Coming up over the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about two things, all related, I suppose, to the politics of the country. At about 10 minutes past 5, a little bit after that, perhaps, we're going to chat to Professor Alex van den Heever from the Wits School of Governance. As revelations have come out in regard to property owned by the Deputy President of the country, Paul Mashatile, a lot of questions are being asked as to what exactly are senior politicians and possibly senior members of government who may not be in structures like cabinet or in the municipal management committees or indeed MECs in the provinces, what exactly are they required to do about in regard to their business interests? There are these various registers where you have to register your assets. It does seem that if you don't, the slap on the wrist is not particularly bruising. But we'll talk about that a little bit more with Professor Alex van den Heever, as I said, joining us from Wits University. And then we're going to look back on a day of debate and discussion in the Constitutional Court. The MK Party is before the country's apex court in regard to steps taken by President Cyril Ramaphosa when he responded to the allegations made by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Taking issue with a number of steps is the MK Party. For example, the putting on leave of absence of the incumbent Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, and the appointment of someone to act in his stead while this process unfolds. That's Professor Feroz Kachalia. So that's the one issue. They're also questioning whether a judicial commission of inquiry is the correct response and the correct way to get to the bottom of this matter. Kevin Smith is a legal expert who'll be giving us his views later in the show. It's 11 minutes past 5. I asked you about some of the things you were warned about not doing, and quite a few of you are giving us your thoughts on what you've seen in Gauteng public hospitals. Let's take a listen.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, John and Tim. We've got one of the best public hospitals in Mamelodi. It was former known as, I think, Daha, Mamelodi Hospital. I don't know what happened over there. There is a turnaround strategy that happened from the waiting rooms to the cleanness of the facility to the service. Things have improved so much in the past 2 years. I don't know what did they do. Maybe the rest of the hospitals must learn from that. Thank you.
Hi, John and the team. John, welcome back. Growing up, when we still use candles, we were told not to play with the candle, otherwise we're going to pee in the bed. But I can't recall ever peeing in the bed because I played with the candle.
So another one here, this one, no name, puts it. We were warned against going into the shower during a lightning storm. Water is an excellent conductor of heat and light. It will kill you. So I always shower well before lightning storms strike. That's from May. Thanks, May. Is that a thing, though? I mean, could you be severely injured and possibly even killed if lightning strikes an area where you are having a shower indoors? I'd be very interested to know. On the hospitals, we've got a mix, but quite a few of our listeners coming in with words of praise for hospitals. We heard about the hospital in Mamelodi a moment ago. Notembe is in Boksburg and says, I visited Tambo Memorial Hospital in Boksburg. for the third time yesterday. I'd like to encourage the management, all employees, doctors, nurses, admin staff, cleaners and security guards to keep up the great work they are doing. We see it and appreciate them. The hospital is so old and really needs attention, but they're trying by all means to keep it clean. Maintenance is needed, Notemba adds, as some toilets don't work or leak, but wow, they are caring and kind. Anonymous says, John, I've witnessed a patient being taken from theatre to a dirty, dusty storage room for junior doctors to observe what was done in theatre, and it answered questions as to why all the patients in that ward picked up infections after being operated on at Charlotte Matlake Hospital. So, mixed picture. Keep those coming, please. We'd love to hear from you. If you work in those hospitals, we'd love to hear from you. If you have been to the hospitals seeking service and a closer look at how they're going about their business. 14 minutes past 5.
EWN Traffic.
This Eyewitness News traffic is brought to you by Outsurance in partnership with 702. Charlene LaRue with the details. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. If you're on the N1 North, there's a crash at Gordon Road. And on the N12, there's still that stationary truck just after Voortrekker Road. That's causing some heavy traffic from Marlborough Drive. It's also affecting the R24. That's backed up to St. Anne's Road. So allow for extra traveling time if you are traveling on the N12. And staying on the N12 East, there's a stationary vehicle that's in the right lane at Diepkloof Interchange. Traffic lights still out in Edenvale at Modderfontein and Van Riebeeck Road, in Midrand at Old Pretoria and Olifantsfontein Road, and in Four Ways at Cedar and Uranium. Moving on to Tshwane, on the N1 South, there's a stationary vehicle that's on the ram to Atterbury Road, and traffic lights out at the R55 and Thatchfield, and in Centurion at Roy Hayes Kraal Road and Eitzig Road. More Eyewitness News traffic in 15 minutes.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Like the feeling of finding the perfect parking spot, the Outsurance pointsmen are here to ease the traffic congestion and make your day a little brighter, because nobody likes traffic drama. Outsurance pointsmen, getting you there quickly and safely since 2005. Outsurance really means it when they say you always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, show them some love online using hashtag pointsmenlove. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
Nobody forced Malcolm X to reveal himself. And maybe they wanted an exclusive so bad. But what they had forgotten is that Godfrey Livea had said on this show that the person who gave him that information has actually been a police informant before. So you're actually putting your life at risk. Can you imagine if this guy has people around him who've been investigated by the Hawks, for instance, and they've been wondering, how did the Hawks know about this? And now they're sitting there thinking, could it have been this guy? But nobody forced this man to reveal himself like that. And he should have been more cautious. But he went and said, in an exclusive, I'm going to reveal myself as a person who called Libya.
Clements Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
What if the most powerful change in leadership started with your voice? At the Legacy Leadership Summit, you won't just be listening, you'll be participating. Join experts like Dr. Tuli Tabudi and Professor Bonang Mohale in meaningful discussions about shaping the future of leadership. Enjoy a fully catered experience, exclusive leadership resources and more. It's all happening on the 14th of November at Henley Business School in Joburg. Seats are limited. Find more information at Legacy Leadership Summit on Facebook and Instagram.
So we did a thing, a full commitment kind of thing. We've partnered with Sixt to bring worldwide to your doorstep. So you see how that's a serious thing, because that's what you deserve. We know you're the GOAT, so premium it is. Premium service, premium vehicles, premium you, premium us. Sani Sixt is all about adding extra to ordinary. Extra reach, extra countries, so you can be extra premium worldwide. Be the greatest of all time and rent Sony Sixt.
At Bright, we don't just provide business insurance, we insure your businesses.
Future success.
Because your business is so much more than desks and computers and equipment, which is why we use our specialist expertise to tailor solutions for each client differently to ensure what's really important. So insure your businesses.
Financial security.
With Bright today, contact your broker or go to brightinsure.co.za to find out more. Bright. Approach risk with purpose. Bright is a licensed insurer and authorized FSP.
Every day, most of us spend an hour in the food aisle, stressing about what to make for dinner. That's 29,200 hours of your life spent shopping and deliberating over what's for dinner. Why not trade that internal drama for watching a little on-screen drama?
Oh, Ronaldo.
Or whatever else you want to do. And let You Cook handle dinner. Delivered, prepped, and ready to cook. So, choose You Cook and take back some me time. Visit youcook.co.za to find out how.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Let's focus our attention now on this over the last couple of days, driven by stories in News 24. Excuse me a sec. Sorry about that. Got to clear that out of my throat. Stories in News 24 about the property ownership of the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile. The first story that's, this story, by the way, is something they've been writing about for quite a long time. But the story that's got things going in recent days, this one written by Carl Cohen, is Carl Cowan, I beg your pardon, is that the Deputy President has now confirmed ownership and declared this on the relevant parliamentary registers of a 28.9 million rand mansion in the exclusive Cape Town suburb of Constantia. There has also been a home which has been declared a 37 million rand house in an exclusive Waterfall Midrand estate. The story notes he had previously declared the house in Waterfall despite not owning it. And at the time, his then spokesperson, said the reason he had declared it was because he had, quote, beneficial use of the property. All of this raises a whole lot of questions, not specifically just about the Deputy President, but also about leadership in politics in general. When someone is chosen as a premier or achieves the office of president, deputy president, minister, and so on, what exactly is it that they are required to do? Is it any different, for example, from ordinary MPs who simply put their assets on the parliamentary register? Or is there a higher burden of transparency that applies to people who are in executive positions? Let's find out then what exactly prevails, but crucially, what the system ought to look like if indeed the system isn't working as well as it should. Professor Alex van den Heefe is at the Wits School of Governance, and we welcome him to the show. Prof, thanks for your time. Are there stricter rules in regard to people who hold executive positions? Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Well, there should be stricter rules, but in essence, and the way things work out, they don't always apply. And the reason why there should be stricter rules for not only public disclosure, but also the conduct of people in positions of public power and authority. And if we had to look at a person like the Deputy President, he's actually appears over many years to have benefited from being in a position of public power. And you're not meant to be exercising public power for your personal gain. And there's an enormous risk that that's exactly what will occur if you don't essentially regulate the people who are in those positions. But what tends to happen is that they are able to exploit their position of power to prevent scrutiny and also to break the rules. And it appears that this is that in fact the Deputy President has a case to answer because of all of this information coming out, and that these properties and the relatives that have benefited from state contracts have all flowed to benefit him in one way or another. That's very problematic.
Do the rules in any way, shape, or form say that relatives cannot benefit from state contracts, or do they merely say if they do, you need to tell us? Even if it's after the fact?
Well, just having disclosure is not enough. If you have to look, and I've had a close look at the case of the fire prevention service contracts that two of his sons, one being a sort of son-in-law, benefited from, two companies. When you go through that, you have a tender process in which multiple contractors submitted for that, many of whom were very qualified. And then somehow they're all eliminated and only those two companies get the contract. So the exercise of public power creates the possibility that you can influence what tender boards do and what people in public entities do because of your power in government. And this is where you require considerable transparency. But what we see here is that a lot of transactions, a lot of state tenders and things seem to have directly or indirectly benefited the deputy president, but people willfully continue with their conduct. It's problematic. So disclosure is one thing. That certainly means that you can start to target where things are problematic, but it can't end there. What needs to happen now is there have to be investigations to see whether or not this money is basically, these contracts, these tenders essentially have been entered into for dubious purposes because they don't seem to have been in the public interest.
Let's step back from the specific person we're talking about and the business interests around the deputy president and ask this. Prof, I mean, if you decide that you are not really going to be absolutely clear about what it is that you own, what your business interests are, and so on. I mean, what exactly are the consequences? It would seem to me, certainly in Parliament, there are a couple of kind of minor sanctions, but if you measure this against the potential financial benefits of, being at the very best vague about what interests you might have in the disbursement of public money, it's certainly worth it. There's nothing where you can get hammered.
No, so one thing is that as part of an accountability process, transparency is sort of just one arm of that, and it's insufficient on its own. And if the penalties are rather weak and you disclose or you don't disclose, or I forgot and I didn't really realize that this was something that should be disclosed, yeah, the penalties are pretty weak. There's some disclosure, but we're also in a situation where even when information that really is problematic becomes known, the rest of what you'd expect in a consequential process doesn't appear to kick in. So yeah, transparency is one thing. Breaking the rules around transparency doesn't appear to impact much and have many sanctions associated with it. That's all problematic. Given that people have this level of power, the consequences should be very high for this kind of non-disclosure, and also in terms of answering for what appears to be incredible wealth that is accumulated without when there isn't much to demonstrate how you did it.
And just finally, I mean, and briefly, if you can, Prof, I mean, one of the questions that I was asked when we were mulling over how to approach this story is, if you come into government and you have business interests, perhaps you're a director of companies, perhaps you're a substantial shareholder, are you required to actually stop being a director of those companies, for example, or are you merely required to let people know that that is an asset and a relationship that you have and hold?
In essence, you would be required not to have a conflict of interest.
Yes.
So there's not black and white rules that you would apply. A particular degree of ownership or some kind of business interest may not involve a conflict of interest. But a conflict of interest is very clear, is that if you have this financial interest, it interferes with my role in this position of in public office. And very often that is very clear, well understood. So the fundamental point is no conflict of interest. And that's your point of departure, not some rule, no conflict of interest. And if that is enforced, then you eliminate this problem, because there's so many ways of saying, oh, well, I resigned as a director, but my daughter takes over. That's not sufficient. There's still a conflict of interest. If you're able to benefit, you personally and your family are able to benefit from a government contract or the application of a new law, then basically you shouldn't be in that position of power, and you have to recuse yourself from those processes. But people don't.
Thanks so much to Professor Alex van den Heever joining us from the Wits School of Governance. It's 28 minutes past 5.
EWN Business.
So, wrap of today's trade and a look ahead to the Money Show tonight. Welcome, Stephen Critters.
Good evening to you, John. One of those days where we saw some sort of green shoots, but I think people are still waiting for two big things. First, we're waiting for an interest rate decision tomorrow, hopefully. Come on, Governor, it will be at least 0.25%, at least 25 basis point cut. But then also, of course, the big announcement on Friday from the US president. And by the way, John, I don't know how good this is looking, but he's just announced a big tariff increase on India, 25%. He says to punish them because they've been buying Russian weapons and Russian oil. He also has a sort of unspecified penalty just for doing that. So politics is a big factor in this, as we know. The JSE All Share ending the day up 0.15% at 99,315 points. Financials up 0.71. Industrials down 0.22. Resources down 0.06. Aspen ending the day down 2.5%. Sasol down 2%. Anglo Gold down nearly 2%, while Naspers is down 1.44%. Glencore saying today that in fact they have been able to lower it will be able to lower its costs by around $1 billion by the end of the year. It's dealing with lower commodity prices, of course, the impact of trade issues, lower coal and cobalt prices having a bit of an impact on Glencore today. Valterra, they're up by 4%. So are some of the other platinum miners today. Valterra did have that trading update earlier in the week, which the market didn't really like. But Implats and Northern both up 2.73, simply around higher platinum prices. And then we saw earlier some of the consumer shares like Mr. Price, they're up 2.22, but some of the other consumer shares were up quite nicely too, I presume in anticipation of that interest rate announcement. AECI, their shares were up 0.7%. Their headline earnings were up over 136% in the 6 months to the end of June. We've also seen some suggestions that take-home pay is rising. In the US, GDP figures show that the US's economy grew by 3% on an annualized basis in the second quarter of the year. That was better than expected. Does come ahead of a Federal Reserve announcement we expect tonight. But also concerns that this might all be around sort of trade and people doing as much as they can before tariffs come into the US. The Dow Jones is down 0.05. The Nasdaq is up 0.38. The S&P 500 is up 0.16 at the moment. The gold price slightly lower, $3,301.20. Platinum's been falling through the afternoon. It's now at $1,354.40. Brent crude slightly higher at $72.13. The rand to the dollar to the rand to the dollar 17.95, to the euro 20.62, to the British pound 23.85. On the Money Show this evening, we'll be talking, of course, about rates. We'll be talking about tariffs. Also, an astonishing story around Mantengu Mining. John, I don't know if you've ever heard of this. I've never heard of this before. They wanted to publish a document on SENS. They say that all of it relates to, it's sort of market sensitive. The JSE has said you can't publish that document on the Stock Exchange News Service. You have to take a lot of it out. Now, I've heard of the JSE fining people for not publishing enough information. That happened to AO Technology earlier in the year. But wanting to publish too much, that's new to me. There's going to be an interesting backstory to this. Of that, I am certain. Also, Rue Marais, he is the CEO of Dis-Chem, a company that really does seem to have momentum behind it at the moment. We'll speak to him about pharmacies, about accountancy, and if I can, about Lego. Stephen Critters, EWN. Build on that business.
The Money Show coming up between 6 and 8 right now. It is 28 minutes to 6. That means it is news time with Mongezi Koko. Here he is.
That's right, Ndate John. Good afternoon. Now, reflecting 1 year as Public Works Minister in the GNU, Dean McPherson says both the DA and ANC have to do things better for the coalition to work. McPherson is one of 6 DA members that are in national cabinet for the first time in the country's democratic history. The GNU came as a result of the ANC losing its national majority in the 2024 general elections. Tebiso Goba has more.
The GNU has faced some rocky moments. However, it has remained largely intact. The two largest parties in the GNU, the ANC and the DA, have repeatedly fallen out, namely over the budget and the firing of the DA's Andrew Whitfield as Deputy Minister of Trade. In an interview with EWN, Public Works Minister Dean McPherson says this was largely expected as this is the country's first ever national coalition government.
I think there are things that both parties could be doing better, and I think that they need to contemplate how to do that. That, no party can singularly get its way and that there's got to be compromise.
McPherson says there needs to be a coalition agreement drawn up and agreed upon by all GNU partners, saying the statement of intent has proved ineffective. Thabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
Co-chairperson of Parliament's Ethics Committee, Lusizo Makubele, says she trusts parliamentarians have been honest about disclosing their financial interests. It's the first time all MPs have made the deadline to submit their disclosures on time, while the leaders of political parties mostly declared shares, pensions, property and family trusts. At least two said they had absolutely nothing to disclose. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
While the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, has updated his declaration from last year to include a Cape Town property, the MK Party's parliamentary leader John Shlope has not made a single declaration in any of the categories, despite being known in the past to live on a farm near Paarl. EFF leader Julius Malema, meanwhile, indicated that he doesn't own property, while DA leader John Steenhuisen disclosed a rental property in Cape Town. Ethics Committee co-chairperson Lusizo Makubele says the public can lodge a complaint with the Speaker if they believe the disclosures are not a true representation of an MP's financial interests.
We believe that members of Parliament would act in the best interest of the oath of office that they took, and we believe and trust what they have disclosed is correct.
Makubele said while Parliament does not verify the accuracy of the disclosures, the committee would rigorously investigate any complaint that suggests disclosures have not been honest. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
The Health Ombudsman says an acute staff shortage has resulted in poor management and ultimately the deaths of 3 patients from the Northern Cape Mental Health Hospital. Now, the Ombudsman revealed its findings today into the treatment complications and deaths of psychiatric patients at the Northern Cape Mental Hospital and Robert Mangaliso Sibuke Hospital. The incidents, which occurred in July and August last year, were investigated in terms of Section 81A of the National Health Amendment Act 2013. The report revealed gross mismanagement, failure to provide urgent medical care, lack of functional equipment and extreme infrastructural deficiencies. Health Ombudsman Professor Taule Mokoena says the Northern Cape Mental Hospital in particular faces an acute shortage of staff.
As a result, the hospital is working at 53% of its commissioned capacity. The hospital operates some of the ships without professional nurses. The nursing and the medical staff do not keep up to date with patient vital signs, and there was generally poor record keeping.
While long-term housing is on the horizon for communities in the Eastern Cape affected by the devastating floods, the provincial government says it is in full swing with its urgent mission to house hundreds of displaced families. Floodwaters have ravaged more than 6,800 households, leaving at least 4,000 people without homes. Provincial spokesperson Kuselwa Ranki says a dedicated resettlement site has been secured in New Rest, located close to the Butterworth CBD. Tanduluhle Ngobo has that story.
The Eastern Cape government says 32 families sheltered in mass centres and receiving essential humanitarian aid have been prioritised for temporary residential units. Spokesperson Kusela Ranchi says suitable land has been identified in King Sabata, Dalindebo and Mnguma municipalities, with construction underway for more than 1,000 residential units.
The construction of temporary residential units is at an advanced stage in Butterworth, with 28 being ready for occupation. The installation of all TRUs will be completed on the 7th of August 2025.
She says some units have been donated by the Development Bank of Southern Africa, the National Department of Human Settlements, including civil society partners.
Measurable progress has been made in identifying and securing land parcels in the areas including Maiden Farm, Kwalink, Traco, Old Transkei Meat Industry, as well as the Old Enkululekweni. Government has ensured that land is earmarked within the proximity to essential services such as schools, clinics and transport routes.
The recent floods have also partially damaged another 2,145 dwellings. Thandol Hlengcobo, Eyewitness News.
And Gaza's Civil Defense Agency says 14 Palestinians were killed by Israeli fire in 4 separate incidents today, 3 of them near aid distribution sites. The territory has been in the grip of war for almost 22 months, and now, according to a UN-mandated report, its 2 million plus inhabitants are facing famine. The Israeli military said it fired warning shots at a group of people who approached its troops hundreds of meters away from the aid center and hours before its opening. A fine day in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Temperatures drop to lows of between 2 and 3, peaking at highs of between 20 and 21.
On the N12, there's a stationary truck in the left lane after Voortrekker Road. The roadway has been closed. That's backed up traffic to Marlborough Drive. It's also affecting the R24 that is slow moving from St. Anne's Road. And on the N12 East, there's a stationary vehicle in the right lane at Diepkloof Interchange.
The top story in EWN, reflecting on 1 year as Public Works Minister in the GNU, Dean McPherson says both the DA and ANC have to do things better for the coalition to work.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
The tariff D-Day looms for South African trade with the United States of America. The president's U.S. envoy, Mr. Ngabisi Jonas. Hey, man, I was wondering where the man is. Good to hear that conversations are ongoing. My sense is that the United States has already made some decisions about the Republic of South Africa. And I think it has a lot to do with our severed relationship with Israel. And I think that that is part of the reason why South Africa is going to suffer in terms of its relationship with the United States.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival offers you 3 days of the heart and art of jazz from the 26th to the 28th of September across 4 stages at the Sandton Convention Centre. Esperanza Spalding, the Baylor Project, Jasmaya Horn, Alune Wade, Steve Bedi, Michelle Ndegeo Cello, Steve Dyer, featuring the Amazwi 8 Choir, Gabby Mutuba, the Fisherman Orchestra, and over 50 world-class acts will be expecting you and yours. Take me there. Buy your ticket, +1 at Ticketmaster now.
Did you ever work in the UK? If you did for at least 3 years and you're under 67, you can get a guaranteed UK state pension worth up to R5 million over a typical retirement for just a small payment directly to UK revenue. Most people get R40 back for every rand they pay in. There's a big queue at UK Revenue as this opportunity may end soon, so act fast. Call Extra Pension in Cape Town or see extrapension.com. Mind your UK pension and it'll mind you. Service fees apply.
Hey besties, welcome to my kitchen tour, or should I say my new walk-in wardrobe. Over here we have the pantry, now home to my jeans and shirts, all color-coded. Oh, and the air fryer, literally the perfect place for my makeup brushes. And who would have thought, the oven is the place to store my handbags.
Who needs a kitchen? Simply spend 200 Rand or more and you could win Simply Asia for a year. T's and C's apply. Simply Asia, connecting the Thai way.
Imagine 30% off everything for your garden. This week only at Stodell's Garden Centres. This special offer is just for Stodell's Garden Club members. Not a Stodell's Garden Club member yet? Simply sign up at Bryanston, Ferndale or Menlo Park and start saving right away. No waiting, no catch. Drop in and see why there's such a buzz about Stodell's. Hurry, offer ends 3rd August. Stodell's Garden Centres. Create happiness.
To every 702 lander who laced up, showed up and walked the talk with us this past Sunday, thank you very much. The 702 family loved every moment, walking, talking and connecting with you on the route. You made the 2025 702 Walk the Talk one for the memory books, and we can't wait to do it all again with you next year. Here's to you, 702 Landers, and here's to the 2025 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, Uncle John. You know, growing up in a black household, whenever there was lightning, they would tell you cover the mirrors with a blanket or a towel and also cover the TV. Still don't understand why you needed to cover them. But yeah, that was a great thing we were told to do, or never watch TV when there's lightning. But now we just continue life as it is and nothing has ever happened. Thanks.
John, being shocked while you're in the bath or in the shower by lightning is virtually impossible. If it was a thing, we would have heard plenty more stories of people who that would have happened to. It was busted on Mythbusters. You can be shocked if you are on a wet field and there's lightning playing. If you're playing cricket or soccer or something, that is definitely possible. But in the bath or the shower, it's an old wives' tale.
Thank you for those. Now, we were asking you, and you may still want to add a couple. What were the things you were warned about when you were younger as a way of keeping you safe? The other thing that is a kind of ongoing conversation is the state of cleanliness and hygiene in Gauteng public hospitals. Now, earlier on the show, we had a voice note praising the Mamelodi Hospital. Paul says, I was at the Mamelodi Hospital and I don't have anything good to say. Maybe the caller praising the hospital should tell us what the performance measures are of what she calls service. And here's one from Dr. Tony who says, Polosong Hospital, referring to the facility in Tsakane in Brakpan, is one of the best run and cleanest public hospitals. I bet it's even the cleanest public hospital in Gauteng. So I must say, I found this really interesting, a real back and forth, different people with different views of hospitals and some of them with differing views of the same hospitals. So if you've got more to add on that, we're happy to get it too. 16 minutes to 6.
EWN Sport.
Tolakele, the Premier League season getting closer, transfers and pre-season optimism, it would seem. You've got some cricket as well. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. And it's Luke Shaw who says he's seen enough in pre-season training from Manchester United to convince him that they can challenge for the Premier League title. So far, they've signed just 2 players in Matthias Cunha and Brian Bewo, but have struggled to offload unwanted stars, including Jadon Sancho and Anthony. That's on the back of a season where they finished 15th in the league and lost the UEFA Europa League final to Tottenham Hotspur.
The aim has to be win the Premier League. People will, be questioning me for saying that after last season, but it has to be that, and it's not just me that thinks that. I'm sure the whole team, if you ask them, they all have the same aims. Even the manager, I'm sure he probably wouldn't say it in the press, but we all have to have the same beliefs and ambitions, and like I said, that real family sort of feeling together, and all strive for the same thing.
In transfer news, Bayern Munich have completed the signing of forward Luis Diaz from Liverpool on a contract until 2029. Granit Xhaka has joined Sunderland on a 3-year deal as he returns to England 2 years after he left Arsenal for Bayer Leverkusen. While in Spain, Kylian Mbappe will now wear the iconic number 10 jersey at Real Madrid. This follows Luka Modric's departure to AC Milan. In cricket, Ben Stokes is confident in Jacob Bethel's ability to bat at number 6. That's in the decisive 5th test against India that gets underway tomorrow. Bethel comes in for the captain who'll miss the test at the Oval due to a shoulder problem, while Ali Pope will captain the side.
It was a lot more hype and a lot more pressure on his shoulders in New Zealand when he got given that chance of batting at 3, and he handled that pretty well. I think being the type of player that he is, where he plays all 3 formats, probably allows him to be a bit more versatile with where he bats in the order. He batted at 3 in New Zealand, did very well, and gets to slide in at 6. And so look, I'm very confident of his ability. He's a quality player. I think we all know that.
Zimbabwe have recalled Brandon Taylor to their squad for their second test against New Zealand that runs from August the 7th until the 11th. He's back after completing a 3.5-year suspension for breaching the ICC's anti-corruption and anti-doping codes. He was banned in 2022 after admitting to receiving $15,000 from an Indian businessman back in 2019. And then he admitted to taking cocaine while in India and claimed it was later used to blackmail him into spot fixing. On the pitch, former Australian pace bowler John Hastings has produced the worst bowling spell in the sport's history. That's after he recorded an 18-ball over during the World Championship of Legends tournament. He bowled 12 wides and 1 no-ball in an over that failed to reach 6 legal deliveries in their T20 clash against Pakistan. Tholakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
At 13 minutes to 6, this Eyewitness News Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance in partnership with 702. Charlene LaRue with the details.
Thank you, John. I don't have great news if you are traveling on the N12. That stationary truck still in the left lane after Voortrekker Road. The roadway has been closed. Traffic still slow moving from Marlborough Drive, affecting the R24 that's backed up to St. Anne Road. So if you can, please use an alternative route, or please be patient if you are sitting in that traffic. They're recovering that truck. And on the N12 East, there's a stationary vehicle in the right lane at Diepkloof Interchange. And on the M1 South, traffic slowing down at Houghton Drive. And there's also an accident at Albertina Sisulu Road. In Edenvale, traffic lights are out at Modderfontein and Van Riebeeck Road, in Midrand at Old Pretoria and Olifantsfontein Road, and in Tshwane, traffic lights out in Centurion at Roy Hayes Kraal Road in Eitzig and the R55 and Thatchfield Road. More Eyewitness News traffic in 15 minutes.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car on the way to the hospital, carrying an elderly couple, playfully bantering about who their first grandchild will look like. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic. It's bringing 2 generations together. Every story is different, and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005, in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
11 minutes to 6. Now we're going to do what we do at the end of every show. In the last part of the show, not quite the end, is talk about music. Now, I've got a fair knowledge of quite a lot of different types of music. Not every single era of music, particularly more recent stuff. But I've followed music for a long time. But there is an area of music about which I know absolutely nothing. And that is because I have never in my life sat down at a console, is that the right word, and played a video game. Never done it, never part of my experience. But you, Jonathan Faber and Kamazela, have come up with some music that is out of a video game. So unsurprisingly, I would think it's music I've never heard. Over to you.
Yeah, and I've never heard this song either. And I'm not a gamer. I gamed when I was like in my early young days, but in my adult years, I'm not a gamer. But I came across this video on TikTok, and it's from a game called Red Redemption 2.
Okay.
And what you get within the gaming community is a lot of people will I think they call them stitches or something like that, but they film themselves whilst they're playing the game, and you can watch them, the actual physical themselves, and then you can watch them playing the game, the screen of whatever they're doing in the game. So there's all these grown men and some women gamers as well. When it gets to the end of this Red Redemption, they are in tears. They are absolutely crying. And what happens is there's this character, the main character, I think his name is Arthur John.
Okay.
And it's the ending. And I think there's multiple endings with him. I'm not too sure. But what he does is he gets on his horse and then he gallops off through this beautiful scenery. And whilst he's galloping, there's like these voices of people that he's come across in his life. So like they'll say, thank you for your time, fella. You were a good man. Mm-hmm. And all these wonderful like compliments for this character. And I think he ends up dying. That's essentially what happens. But there's this song that I discovered. I've never heard it in my life. It's called That's the Way It Is. And it's by a man called Daniel Lanois. Now, it's actually quite a nice song. But when you put the song with the visuals of the game and obviously the story behind it, it's quite touching. But let's take a listen to the song as it is. And picture this cowboy on his horse. Maybe he's lost. He's riding into the sunset. And you've played this game with this character and you got attached. And this is the song that ends the game.
And okay, well, let's hear the song first. Then we got a question for all of you, because presumably, if Red Redemption uses music in the powerful way you've just described, that's a feature of other video games.
Yes.
But let's hear the music and then see what we can get from all of you out there. This is called That's the Way It Is.
The many miles we walk, the many things we learn, the building of a shrine, only just to burn. May the wind be at your back, good fortune touch your hand. May the cards lay out astray, all from your command. That's the way it is. 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 Blue heron leaves the northern sky.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great song. Obviously, I mean, is this music written specifically for these games and not released anywhere else, or how does it work?
So when I heard the song with these clips on TikTok, I went and looked for it, and then there's like a Red Redemption 2 album that you can find all the music that is in the gameplay.
Okay, so let's ask you then, great music that you've come across from playing video games?
Yeah.
Is that the right term? Video games?
Yeah, video
Even though we don't have
games.
videos anymore. Okay, video
Game
games.
consoles, yeah.
Okay, whatever. Games. Send us your favorite songs, please. Send them now on 072 702 1702. This is 702 Drive.
That's the way.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebogile Mabota, 1 to 3 p.m.
I know when a person wins the lottery above a certain amount, is particularly with the jackpot. One of the first things that they do is bring in a psychologist. Why would winning a whole lot of money be traumatic, girl? Because I want it.
I always say to people that an incident or good stress or bad stress, right? So winning the lottery would trigger your actual character sometimes. So for example, if you are not a psychologically healthy person or you've got certain traits that are just under the surface, so stress can actually bring to the forefront your actual character.
Dr. Itumetse Mashego.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebogile Mabota.
Let's walk the talk.
At the heart of global conversations shaping the future, Africa's voice matters more than ever. As Africa's largest bank by assets and lead sponsor of the B20 Summit, Standard Bank Group is proud to spotlight the continent's growth, partnerships and potential on the world stage. Through informed dialogue and powerful partnerships, Standard Bank is driving sustainable growth where it matters most. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Close your eyes. Taste the mist from the Sunny Pass waterfall. Feel the calm beneath the waves in Scottsboro. See the giants in East London. Breathe in the air of the Knysna Forest. Hear the roar of adventure in White River. 5 premier resorts, 5 senses, 5 all-inclusive escapes. Visit premierhotels.co.za for T's and C's and bookings.
The Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra's early spring season features a stellar lineup of international and local talent. Enjoy favorites by Mozart, Beethoven and Tchaikovsky. Concerts run at the Linda Auditorium on Thursday evenings from 7 to 28 August. Book at Quicket. Visit jpo.co.za for more info.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive. Okay, let's find out what kind of songs have come out of your experience of gaming. And my limited understanding of gaming, from knowing people who really enjoy it, is that it is absolutely intense. I would have thought any music that you like would be even more intensified, because you're not just listening to the music, but you're involved in the game that you're playing and the people you're competing with. So let's hear from you.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John and team. Brett here. Hope and trust you're well. For me, the greatest music from video games has to be Last of Us 2. A Troy Baker song, and I can't remember who the singers of the other one is, but they do their own rendition of Take On Me by Aha. But bless you guys.
Just a poor, a wayfaring stranger traveling through this world of woe. There is no sickness, no toil, no danger in that bright land to which I go. I'm going there to see my mother. She said she'd meet me when I come. I'm just a going over Jordan. I'm just a going over home. I know dark clouds will gather round me. I know my way is rough and steep.
The voice there of Ashley Johnson. Leslie says, thank you for that one, Uncle John and Kabazela. The character, referring to Red Redemption, develops from an outlaw to a man with a conscience. In that way, the player also evolves. It's a cinematic masterpiece. And says, Rockstar Games, which is the producer of Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto, among others, are known to use very good music throughout their games. Fortunately, no more time to get into more of that great music. From me, John Perlman, and the team, good night.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app
and DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, honoured as the best bank for ESG in Africa and South Africa by Euro Money Awards for Excellence 2025. Good evening. On your Money Show tonight, President Trump says he's using tariffs to punish India for its deals with Russia as the clock ticks down to our deadline on Friday. A higher maize harvest suggests lower food price inflation soon, while the Reserve Bank's expected to cut rates tomorrow. The strange case of Mantengu Mining and the JSE. Mantengu claims the JSE is blocking their full SENS statement. And your shapeshifter this evening, the CEO of Dis-Chem, Roy Marais. All of that to come, but first, the very latest Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Maki Malapo. We begin in the Western Cape, where some trade unions have issued a stern warning to governments from the G20 member states to avoid reneging on promises to reform labour policy, with union federations retabling some demands. Four major federations, COSATU, FEDU,